And now, holy shit, folks.
I always remind people, you know, I am suspended for life for minor hockey.
It's my duty to please the booty.
Did you catch a rattlesnake and then drive home with it in your car holding it the whole time?
Yep.
Phil only drinks Coke. He doesn't drink water. I'll fucking quit.
Fugazis.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 445 of Spittin Chiclets, presented by Pink Whitney from our friends at New Amsterdam Vodka here in the Barstool Sports podcast family. Gang, we are 4 games into the conference finals, and we've had 4 overtime games, 7 total overtimes. The play is unreal. The stakes are high. This is what we live for, Biz. Let's go around the table and say hi to the boys. The Arm Dog is with us tonight. Colby Armstrong, how you doing, my friend?
Oh, let's go. We're in the conference finals. Is there anything better? Nope. And that is a NHL record, the first 2 games of each series to go to overtime, which is pretty crazy what we're seeing right now. So, yeah. And then I spent all weekend, well, at least one day of the weekend at a lacrosse tournament for my son, which was crazy. I'm going to be, my legs will be red, like lobster red. Well, you know what I'm talking about. Already, I'm sure you do too.
Canada's national sport. Canada's national sport, according to Wayne Gretzky, which we'll get into a legendary lacrosse Canadian when we're discussing the Toronto Maple Leafs, because the man in charge who made the decision, he's a lacrosse legend, Brendan Shanahan. He was a lacrosse player? Yeah, he was unbelievable at lacrosse. And Army, Jans texted me. He was the same thing this weekend with his daughter. Yeah. He said, I'm in the middle of Florida, where RA's trailer home is, and I am in the middle of a field with no sort of ability to get shade for the next 9 hours. So you dealt with the same thing. Yeah, he's cooked. I was cooked sitting in a lawn chair. I mean, I can say this, and honestly, you guys could probably attest to this, like sitting in a rink all the time it's nice to sit out in the lawn chair and just watch like summer sports. I think that's awesome. So Jans is living the life with his kids playing lacrosse. Get a nice base tan. Hey, it must be nice too, because obviously from a hockey player perspective, because the reason it came up on the TNT broadcast is Coop is a lacrosse player, went to college, I think he played Division I lacrosse. Asked Brandon Montour about it, who was an incredible lacrosse player growing up, but it teaches you to have those silky mitts. And also to take punishment, like going to hard areas. Like lacrosse is probably one of the most intense, most physical sports, especially with getting like hacked and whacked the whole time. My kid is black and blue. He's bruised like crazy. There's just insane slashing. It was so funny on the TNT broadcast too. Wayne Gretzky said he played lacrosse until he was like 15. And then they're like, why, what made you pick, as like a joke. And he's like, I didn't want to play. It was way too tough. It's like, it's brutally tough sport. It's gross. Oh, here he is, Mr. Tough Man from lacrosse himself.
Hey, don't have to do a cheer at the end of practice though.
Gretzky talking about quitting lacrosse on national television because it was a little too tough made me feel a little bit better about myself. With my whole quitting situation.
Yeah, you guys have so much alike.
G-Man, so much in common.
You know what he talked about too is how he would take sandpaper and he would round his wood stick more like lacrosse, like his hockey stick, because of the way that he was able to like stick handle better. Did you ever use a rounder stick? Like even when they got the one pieces, they started making them so you could get them a little bit rounder.
Yeah. Well, gee, were you going to say something about those sticks?
No, I mean, that's how lacrosse sticks are made. They're super round, super more like octagon-y, where you can just kind of roll it off your wrist, where they can just flip them easy. So
what
that
wrists? You don't even have wrists.
Wheelie bag wrists.
You're like bitch wrists.
You know what? Some of those, didn't Branches come out with like a more like circular wood stick back in the day? Was that the company? I can't remember, but we were just traditional like square stick, normal wood stick.
Paul. Biz Nasty Bissonette. I don't recognize that background. Is that a hotel room, drapes, or what? You're always on.
Yeah, I'm in a different hotel because we got to go home for a couple days after the last round ended a little bit early. My Wi-Fi shit though, so I can't see you guys. So if our timing's a little off, it's my fault. My Ethernet cord is pretty much useless because that box at the top of the television ain't working. Army, you know my pain. You had to come here and do the whole new setup, but still here. I'm ready to go. A couple great games, a long one, game 1, Carolina, Florida. Matthew Tkachuk, what more can you say? And really excited to dive into some hockey. And the headline hogs, Toronto Maple Leafs. What the fuck is going on? We can never just get a podcast off of talking about all their drama. It's like keeping up with the Kardashians.
Like you really hope we don't get involved with some Leafs talk.
I didn't want this. I wanted everyone to be happy and keep this thing going. What did I say last podcast? I wanted to keep the band back together for at least one more year, to roll it one more time, because I believe in this young group and I think they could eventually get it done. But now all of a sudden the GM wants more money and the drama ensues, and we'll get to it later. But RA, thanks for the intro. Looking forward to hearing from Whit and what he's got going, because his boy Blake Koepka got the job done this weekend. Ooh.
The Whit dog, Ryan Whitney. What's shaking, brother?
Not much, guys. Yeah, Koepka. I mean, I guess we could talk about it later. I didn't see that much of the tournament. I saw the end today. I mean, this guy's a machine. This guy's an assassin on the golf course, and I've made it pretty clear I'm not a huge Koepka guy. Without ever meeting him, I've always made that open or said that. But I can't not just give the guy as much credit as possible. He's the alpha now. He's the 5 major guy. Rory's at 4. Last one was 9 years ago. DJ's only got 2, and his amazing. Like Koepka's got 5. I think there's only 20 golfers in history with 5 or more majors. So an all-time great machine on the golf course. My weekend, I don't know if you asked about that already, but I've just had a good one. Watched a lot of hockey, and also we're talking about lacrosse. I've wanted Ryder to get into lacrosse, so he does this thing, Scoops. I've mentioned it before. Great program around Massachusetts where it's for kids starting at 4, 5, 6, 7. Then they get into even more serious, but it's the coach with the music playing. They're all dancing. The kids actually love it. But he's into T-ball too. And I'm helping coach out. We got our team is just low. 4, 5, 6-year-olds are just ripping the ball. And Ryder loves it. And I grew up playing baseball. My town didn't have lacrosse. I would have loved to play it, but I always played baseball to high school. And it's awesome being around the field. What sucks is when you start the slow pitch with the kids and the coach is pitching. I mean, you got kids. You got 2-3 hour games for 7-year-olds. So
buddy, it's
I'm sure
brutal.
It gets a little slower, but right now, like teaching them how to hit, and they're on the tee, and you hit it, you go to first, and then the next kid hits, you go to second. They just love it. So that was my weekend. Besides watching games, and I played golf.
Are you coaching?
Are they going to adapt the MLB rules?
Yeah.
Are they going to adapt the MLB rules where they fucking hurry them up 15 seconds, throw the pitch?
Oh, these kids aren't running out of the field. I'm straight up like having child services show up with a boot to the ass. It's like, get to the dugout, run off the field, Charlie. But no, it's a blast. And then I played golf today and then watched the game. So it's been a hell of a weekend. Just beautiful around here besides yesterday.
Yeah, the weather's great. We don't want to leave our producer out, Mikey Granelli. How you doing, pal? I know we just said hello, but how was your weekend?
It was good. Waiting on pins and needles all weekend for my TNT shutout from Biz. Still didn't come. I thought
you got one before, dude.
I didn't. I'm telling you,
were
I
you
didn't.
watching that?
You got one like late at night.
Thank you.
Not true. But
he's kind of
Brunel, you're telling me you've watched every one of his broadcasts, including the doubleheaders when it's Anaheim, like San Jose at 10:30.
I know that if that happened, I would have gotten a million videos of it. I know for a fact this didn't happen.
Okay, I'll promise any Chiclets fan who can dig up a video, if they have one, of me mentioning Granelli, and I think I want to say I mentioned the apartment rats, something of that regard. If any Chiclets fan can find it, I will make sure I send you a couple.
We just got 7 videos came in.
He'll do a meet and greet with you.
But there has to be a punishment for you, G, because you're saying that I didn't do it when I know I did. I know I checked every guy off the list. The only guy who hasn't got a shutout is like Fish and Quater. And I'll make sure to get to them at some point.
You tell me the punishment, and I'll do it.
You have to play box.
You have to get that same haircut again. You have to get that same haircut again that you got a couple weeks ago.
You got to put his sideburns way higher, like another. Like you have the sideburns like way up.
Who is
an inch and a half?
You have to get Stan Butler sideburns, the old Brampton Battalion coach.
Done.
Those things are so high.
But boys, I didn't do much this weekend. I'm hanging low, but I do have one thing to say. Monday morning, we're finally dropping these all black, murdered out, big deal brewing hats. It's been a long time coming, so you can buy those barstoolsports.com/chiclets. There's been a lot of people asking for them.
Also now available in British Columbia. So there's 2 provinces down, Alberta, British Columbia, and Ontario is coming soon. So stay patient, Ontario. I know it's my home province. We got you guys. The rules are very strict in Canada, as I've mentioned a million times, but it will be coming. It'll be there before summertime heats up.
Here we go. You guys had another sandbagger that dropped. Everybody seemed to really get a kick out of it. Portnoy was hilarious as usual. I think that might have been one of the top 2 or 3 funniest ones you guys have dropped, just because the Whitney and Portnoy show never gets old.
Yeah, it was a ridiculous show. That's kind of what I tried saying leading up to it. It was unlike any other sandbagger. People just, whether they love him or hate him, Portnoy gets, I guess, discussion about him no matter what. And he was such a miserable prick on the course, and everyone loved seeing it, whether they loved him or hate him. He was just miserable. And the fact that we were able to do that to him and piss him off that much, along with, dude, we were 2 down with 4 to go. We were dead. And we had different rules. But I'll still say that the conditions in that course, I would rather just go on a hike with Biz in
what
like
do you
tight
mean? Like, do you not like hiking?
Do that again.
I know.
Do you not like hiking? What do you have against hiking?
Walk on a hill.
It's just like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd rather go for a nice walk where it doesn't involve like walking up a hill and then you got to walk down it after.
I feel
can
more
get my
accomplished.
exercise on a walk without being like
What are you
the guy
thinking
with the
when you
water
do it?
bottle.
I mean,
with the
you do
thing
it on
over
the
his shoulder,
treadmill.
right into his mouth.
You do the incline on the treadmill. Wouldn't you rather look at like beautiful trees and mountains? And
Yeah, but you're doing that with because you're working out. Like you're actually working out. You sell it as it's like, and so do all the other hikers. Like it's like,
Yeah,
they're coming up with amazing fucking ideas and like, ooh, they're so clear and they're just like one with the universe.
What
It's like
the
just
fuck
fucking.
are you talking about? Like, can we get some common sense from our Chiclets listeners about? It's just nice to go on a hike. Like in some cases, you like find like you run into like lakes that you can't just draw.
You maybe see like
the last one I went on, there was wild boar. So I was scared shitless because you don't know if they're going to attack you or not.
All right.
No, that's a warthog.
So Biz, actually, in terms of a hike, if there was a nice path, and you know when they got the wood chips on a hike and the wood chip path is so soft on the feet, my ankles and my feet. If you give me that and it's up a hill, I'd love it.
Oh, there's different kinds of hikes
boots on, and you're stepping on rocks that are like moving around. Like
there's
dude,
different types of terrain when you go hiking with. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there is a little when you're in the desert. There is a little bit of rock, and then there is a little bit of dirt. Depends on which terrain you're going through. Like I go on some where you end up going through all types of terrain. In some cases, you're even passing these like little creeks and water paths. So it's just nice to get like the. What the fuck are you laughing about, Army? You never go hiking either?
I think your term for water paths.
It sounds like you're just making up like a mysterious land. Like you're.
I picture him listening.
What's the Disney movie where they're like their creations? Like, what is that one? Where,
I don't know, man. You're making it up in your own brain. I can't.
Alice in Wonderland. You're thinking of Colby.
Yeah, on shrooms.
No, yeah, that's close.
I can't believe I'm
you
getting
listening
shamed
to
right
like
now.
Hans Zimmer, like walking past the water path. And just becoming one with the rock. And
you know
and
what?
I guess my thing is the guy went for a hike who ended up cutting his own arm off to stay alive in that movie, 128 hours. Like if that's a possibility of happening to me, I'm not doing it. I'd rather go on the treadmill.
He was doing some extreme stuff though. That kid. That was a wild movie though. What fucking cut his own arm off? Like
yeah, I turned it off when I couldn't watch that part. I was like, I'm done. I knew the end.
What's the movie I'm thinking of where they're cats and they live in like a fantasy land and they like fly on dragons?
I can only imagine what Whit's saying behind my
Never-ending
back.
Story?
No, it's a new one. It's the
Simpson.
It's the new big Disney thing. They're coming out with another Avatar.
Avatar's not.
That's what Biz is like on his hikes. He turns into an avatar and Biz went on a hike one time and he crossed like a pink stream, was floating.
I bet you
and then when he jumped over it, he jumped on the back.
I bet you 80% of Chiclets fans are ripping on Whit and Army right now for the fact that I'm getting shamed about loving going on hikes.
I love that you love it.
And getting away from technology and being one with nature.
Great. It really is. It really is. I was just giving you a hard time, but
and then he jumps on a dragon's back and he's flying with the dragon and he's like looking down on Marshmallow Forest. He's like, whoa, what a hike.
Yeah, wait till I get bit by a rattlesnake and I never come back.
He's lighting his bowl in the tunnel of a rock cave and he's just looking up and just sees an old Inca, like one of those Inca people, and he's just like, this is why I came for this hike.
I'm going to be that kid who goes to the movie Into the Wild You're never going to see me again.
Yeah,
I know that actually might be you when this is all said and done.
Oh,
what happened to Biz? Oh, he ate a poison mushroom in the woods of Idaho. He died.
Yeah, 3 ounces of them. Hey, remember that? Jack and Jill went up the hill, each with $1.25. Joe came down with $2.50. Oh. I fucking, every time I hear that, I think it's fucking nice, man. I don't know.
We should do a content piece where we go spend like 5 days in the wilderness. We'll go down.
We should do a hike, man. I'll do a hike with you. Let's do like a crazy trail hike. What's the long one that everyone does? Is it Appalachian
Trail? Yeah,
there's that one.
You could die on that.
The John Mayer Trail or John.
You gotta play the guitar the whole time when he's over it.
You have to be a misogynist the whole time and just pound the hottest broads on the planet with a nice watch collection.
I would never ever go for 5 nights in the woods. I would never even probably do 2 nights, maybe one.
One, maybe.
Yeah. I would never do it.
What do you mean? No, like you don't want to do a tent? Like, are you talking about sleeping under the stars? With
Could you imagine the amount of complaining he would do? Oh. It would be 20 times worse than what we saw from Portnoy in that last sandbagger. By the way, Whit, hey, partner, congratulations. 8 in a row. That's
boom.
I mean, we got us and Koepka, top two guys in golf right now, if you count us as one.
So now, the people calling us out are the people that want a piece. Brady and Matt Tkachuk, that would be legendary if we can get that done this summer.
With Walt in the cart with Merles, just crushing pints.
Yep. Sean Thornton and Tuukka Rask with Keegan Bradley as their caddy. That's been called out. We got Scott Hartnell and Kimmo Timonen who want a piece. And we have, I'm not going to release the names, but guys that'll be in Nashville when we'll be there for the draft and the awards. Unreal how the league's doing that. June 26th to 29th, Nashville. You got everything going on. And there's people there that want a piece too. So we have nothing filmed in the bank right now, guys. And they do take a while to edit. Pasha is doing an insane job. The graphics, the storyline, like the putting the Happy Gilmore thing in when Portnoy and Richards and you hit it right, or you hit it left, they hit it right, and just people were falling out of windows. What a touch. So they take like a month, 2 months to edit. I don't know what you want us to tell you, but we're going to get some done and they'll be ripping out through the summer.
Can't wait for the next one. The Charles Barkley feedback, boys. I mean, it was overwhelming. So many people said Mount Rushmore for Chiclets all the way. I mean, it has to be probably a top 3 reception for our interviews, no? Biz? Would you say?
100%. And so gracious with his time, too. We almost, what was it, an hour and 45 minutes sit down? And keep in mind, he had to do the NBA broadcast that night as well. Just some iconic stories. The one about him playing drunk was, I mean, I still, people were trying to dig up his stat line. I think the common denominator was one game around where he got dealt and he only had 6 points in that one. So, hey, not fucking bad for playing platoon. So, overall, I would definitely say Mount Rushmore for sure. The feedback was incredible. So thank you to Chiclets Nation for all your support throughout the years. And, you know, we just try to keep bringing you guys the bangers and also to sometimes get outside the bubble of hockey. Like I actually used the same trainer back in Scottsdale as Sugar Sean O'Malley, who's one of the more well-known UFC fighters. And I think that we can get him on before his next fight, which I believe is in August. So we want to keep pushing the envelope and getting different types of guests on. And maybe we can get some PGA guys on it at some point, because I know you're big into actually, I'll throw this one to you, RA, because we actually didn't hear about your weekend. Who would be a guy outside of the hockey realm that you would love to get on to interview? Like, who would be in your...
He's going to say someone we've never heard of that was an actor in the 50s.
Well, how about how about the guy who...
He's a great screenplay writer from the 70s.
Brunelli, Googles him. It's like, RA, he passed away a year ago.
Well, you know who passed was the guy, RA, you talked about that movie that you love, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Rick Dudley. Was that the character? Rick Dalton. Dalton. Jeez, I'm off with the names today.
No,
but,
that's all right. Rick Dudley is the former GM. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was obviously not a real person. It was kind of weird, I guess, to have this death notice for a person who didn't actually exist. I mean, it was just playing into the movie.
Wait, so how did he die?
Wait a minute. That was like a sham.
No, they showed Leonardo DiCaprio's head.
Oh, Biz, what are you talking about? You got duped by the internet on a real fake story?
Well,
this was supposed to be a joke, Biz. They weren't trying to trick anyone.
Well, hook, line, and you know me. I believe everything I read on the internet. I'm going to be GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's what I'm fucking believing right now.
No, Rick Dalton was the character that Leo played in Once Upon a Time in America. And then, I don't know, for whatever reason, they just decided to kill him off in whatever, real life, even though he wasn't a real life character. So, no, Leo's still with us. The character who's fictional, not a real person, they killed him off for whatever reason. I don't know what Quinn's doing about it, but
I was so confused as to why they were putting Leo's face, where I'm like, hey, I get that he played him in a movie, but that's pretty disrespectful to just not use the real guy. But then I Googled the name, and then somebody different popped up, like it was somebody real. So are you positive, RA? It's one of your most favorite movies.
There's probably a Rick Dalton out there. If you Google, I'm sure there's a guy's named Rick Dalton, but like that whole thing was just a spiel. It was just like, you know, they killed him off because he wrote a book about the movie after like a novelization. And, you know, I seen it. I was like, yeah, it's a little weird, like 2 years after the movie came out to kill the guy off. But I don't know. People are talking about it. They're probably renting the movie again. I'm sure there's like money behind it.
You know that Rick Dalton's favorite cologne was from Germany. Leon Draisaitl made it.
You fucking
When you
assholes.
said he was starting a cologne because you looked on the internet and it said Cologne Germany, that's one of the funniest things. If God willing, I'm 90 years old laying in bed, I'm going to be laughing about you being like, guys, you hear he's starting a cologne?
Yeah.
All right, sorry, I interrupted what was your answer as who'd you wish to have on the show?
I was still mulling it over, man. That's a tough one, man. I obviously outside of hockey, does it have to be someone I know already, or can it be someone
anyone? All right,
yeah. I would say maybe the Coen brothers, they're two guys, but whatever. They direct movies singularly.
Guys, before we go any further, it's Pink Whitney time. It's time to talk about the drink of the summer, the drink of the season, the pink juice, the birdie juice. Mix it with a little water. Mix it with a little soda water. Mix it with an energy drink. That's my trick, guys. I talked about this last week. You hammer the energy drink in a nice heavy pour of Pink Whitney, and you're buzzing around. You're either playing golf well, you're playing with your kids well. You're doing it all at an extra level with the Pink Whitney and the energy drink. That's my choice, but you can mix it with anything. And when you get outside with your friends and you're looking to enjoy yourselves, now is the time to go grab a bottle, go grab a nip. The big-ass bottles are here, and they're here to stay. Pink Whitney's where it's at. No matter what you're doing, get involved. Have yourself a nice drink. Feel the buzz, feel the energy, and have a great time. Pink Whitney, thanks for representing us.
I don't know if you guys heard Justin Thomas. He went on Smiley Kaufman's podcast this past week, and he had a hilarious story about them going back and forth with Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins when they were like,
I saw that online.
Really?
Yeah,
it's really funny. I'll play the clip right now.
I'm a hockey fan. Pittsburgh Penguins are my team. And I come out of the bathroom and I'm like, that is Sidney Crosby. Like, that's 100% Sidney Crosby. So they bring me into this room that they're eating at, and I'm all geeked up. I'm talking to some of the boys on the Pens, and then I come back, and I think you were the first person that made eye contact with. I'm like, boys, it looks like we got a night ahead of us, because I just ran into some of the boys on the Penguins, and I'm sure they want to have a couple after dinner.
They sent us a bottle of wine, and we responded with what?
I don't know why it just came into my mind. I was like, there's 8 of them. I was like, what do you think about splitting a Caesar salad into 8 portions and giving it to him? And then the guy's like all in. He's like, oh, wait. He's like, yeah, I could I'll just put like a piece of lettuce on there and like put a crouton and like make the whole presentation. I'm like, perfect. Waiter comes back in with a tray full of shots. It's got the salt around the rim, and it's got a lime on there, and it's just, they put it down. And I think we all did the same thing. We just, when you see something, it just looks warm, we're like, this is a warm tequila shot. And we just feel the glass, and everybody is just petrified to even like smell this thing, let alone try it. And all of us are kind of getting a little closer to it. And I don't know who it was. Someone at the table just goes, it's water, which then we proceeded to send the final blowback, and that was we got them all glasses of 2% milk.
I mean, Justin Thomas would be an amazing guest.
We got to get him on.
He's a huge hockey fan. He'd be unbelievable.
I got to be honest with him right off the bat. I was all over him. Remember when he had the fan kicked out who yelled at his ball to get in the bunker? It was years ago. But he hit a ball at the PGA National Course in the Honda Classic Army on the 16th hole, and the guy yelled, get in the bunker. And he had the security kick him out. Since then, I've been an enormous fan, but I'm going to have to be, you can't chirp a guy on the show and then have him on and not be honest at what you said about him. But hopefully we could get him. That'd be sick.
Yeah, it would be a good get. Biz, as for the weekend, Friday, Had the seltz on, had the playoff game. I just went down to the club, took it easy. I didn't drink, just had a couple seltzer waters, enjoyed the games. And then Saturday, one of my oldest best friends, my pal Shannon, I grew up with her, I've known since we were in diapers. It was great. She's cousins with Big Walt with the Kachuk. So the game was on. It was an overtime, and Maddie scored. Like half the family was there, so it was pretty awesome. Everyone's dancing on the dance floor. He scored the game winner during the party, so it was pretty cool shit that was going on. So yeah, I did that. Had a little
awesome.
party for my pal Shannon, her surprise 50th. Happy birthday, Shannon. I know you don't listen, but I'll say it anyway. So yeah, it was a really cool moment, man. It was good stuff. So
he was after post-game interview, he was shouting out Walt and calling him Johnny Drama, just hanging around the house, crushing.
I saw
pops.
that, Biz. That was unreal.
Fucking hilarious.
He's WWE wrestler, man. He's just fucking electric right now. He's got the world by the balls. The league needed a superstar with personality like this shining in a big moment, which are these conference finals, and it looks like they're going to be going off to the Stanley Cup finals. This is what hockey needs, man. More personality and more guys grabbing the world by the balls and not being afraid to speak their mind and show emotion. I want to say that he hit every single broadcast in the postgame. That's why he wanted to get off the ice so quick, because he had to hit out every network known to man.
Yeah.
What do you say, bussin' 10?
Yeah.
That was a good line.
Shelly we'll get to, though. But Biz, your team, Toronto, whirlwind few days up there. The Leafs had breakup day. Kyle Dubas met the media, and he spoke about a bunch of things. And he said, he was asked by Chris Johnson how much of the job has been taking a toll on him. He answered honestly, but I think Shanny kind of took a mental note. They had discussions about an extension, and things were smoothly running along. And then they had a meeting Wednesday. Dubas said he wanted to make processes work faster, and then his agent reached out with a new deal or new terms of the deal. And Shanny just kind of like, all right, I need a 20-second timeout here. And all of a sudden, he decided that was it. I mean, Shanahan said, that's it. We got to make the change. He called for a press conference 3 o'clock on Friday. I guess it's a holiday weekend up Canada this weekend. And it was a stunning turn of events because they were really going to sign him. And then it all switched around, Biz. So, like, what do you think happened? Did he overplay his hand, or was it an overreaction by Shanny? What do you think happened here, Biz?
Well, I mean, it seems to be a little bit of hearsay. Like you hear Shanny's side, and everybody's keeping it politically correct, open air. Much like Dubas when he did his sit down. From my understanding, he was offered an extension in March. That then he was more like, hey, let's wait till the end of the season to see how it all plays out. Where, hey, if they go on a long run and they end up, let's say, winning the thing, then obviously he's got way more leverage. And it seemed like maybe in his postseason press conference that he was trying to use the media a little bit, where he was considering sitting the season out. He said that regardless if he was staying in Toronto, if the job wasn't going to be his. Is that what is that everybody's understanding too?
Yeah. That was early in the week. He did say that, yes.
Yeah, he said that he wouldn't be, like, basically if the job wasn't his, he was going to take the year off because he wanted to spend more time with the family because, hey, boys, being the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs, we all know how stressful that would be. And just also based on his comments, it seems like it was more of going to a round table to get decisions kind of cleared, where I can understand that as a GM, that might be a little bit frustrating. But like, if you're going to be a successful GM in the National Hockey League, you have to have a strong round table. It's probably the whole reason that Shanahan's in that position too, where, if he wants to try to change something, that he's there to maybe say, I don't know if that's necessarily good. And you need a strong difference of opinions. But based on what my understanding of what he was being offered, and my understanding is either a 3 or 4 year deal around a $5 million mark. If that is the case, and he, after what they did this year and what he's done so far with the Toronto Maple Leafs, if you really want to be the fucking Toronto Maple Leafs general manager, take that deal. You have in my opinion, no leverage in that situation. And am I saying that Dubas didn't have success as the Toronto GM? I would say that he's made a lot of good moves and done a lot of good things, but there's also things that have hurt them and cost them. And we've talked about them a million times. Kadri, JT, what they paid him, and then not using the strength in negotiations between Marner and Matthews. And then all of a sudden they got Matthews heading into his last year of his deal where he has a no move clause July 1. So that's putting the new general manager who steps in a pretty difficult situation, considering he's got 6 weeks to figure out what the future of this organization is without their, going back to last year, potentially having to move their MVP based on whatever he thinks he deserves as far as a contract. So if in fact and this is nothing personal, but as like a fan of the Toronto Maple Leafs, if he tried to go back and act like he had strength in negotiation and was using the media a little bit to use it as leverage to get a little bit more and get the PJ at his access and have nobody looking over his shoulder based on some of the moves he has made, fuck that, man. See you later. Go if you can get more and more control somewhere else, all the power to you. But in no circumstance do you have any type of negotiating power when what he's done there so far in his tenure as the Toronto Maple Leaf GM. Am I crazy here?
No.
Am I crazy if a guy's going to make $5 million a year for that is the most desired job, in my opinion, in all of hockey.
Winning one round.
What's for winning one round. Like, yeah, the team has been relevant and they've been winning and they've been, at the top of the Eastern Conference the last 2-3 years. And, making playoffs is successful because we know what type of money you make when you go in the first round and you get the gate and blah, blah, blah. But based on expectations, I would have been okay if they would have just offered him a 1-year deal to run it back and say, hey, you want to prove yourself? Prove yourself. You got one more year to make decisions and let's see how far we can take this and give these guys one more year of growth based on everything that you've done as far as moves. But I must be going crazy here where a young guy like that who hasn't proven anything in the National Hockey League to think that he has leverage against the Toronto Maple Leafs, MLSC, or whoever the fuck you want to call it.
So Biz, I just have like a question after you said all that, because I think, can we believe everything Shanny said in the rundown? Like, I would love to know, I would love to get the other side, but are you saying he's a bad negotiator pretty much? Like all those deals he did, not getting Austin on the 5-year instead of a big, massive deal. He kind of the boys got what they pretty much wanted, the JT, everyone. And I don't think he did JT really. So
I just think it put the team in a bad spot. I mean, look at every team now still in playoffs,
but then puts himself in a bad spot too by trying to come over the top with a muscle renegotiation.
My thought is he doesn't care about being the Maple Leafs GM as much as he's saying, because even though he's coming out and saying all those things, he also used his leverage. He had to know there was a chance that this would backfire, and he probably knows, I'll get another job in the blink of an eye. Now, granted, I don't know if it's going to be $5 million a year, but if a new organization hires him, it's probably not going to be that far off with probably longer term. So it's all right, I'll try to get this by using that press conference, which I'll get into Shanny and probably what he thought in my mind, but I'll try to use this press conference, and if I get a little more or whatever, this is great. But in the end, I'm still set. You know what I mean?
He was asked not to say some of the things that he said. That's another one of our because it's hard, right? Because it's all this hearsay, and I'm basing everything off of that has came out publicly, where some of the things that he mentioned in the press conference seemed as if though he was using that as leverage. And if he does end up, Pittsburgh has just asked for permission to speak to Kyle Dubas. So if Kyle Dubas ends up, in fact, being the GM of the Pittsburgh Penguins next season, we know everything we need to know about him. But this is nothing personal. If he goes and gets a longer deal as far as term and the same amount of money, if not more, and has to answer to less people, Kyle Dubas seems to be the winner in all this, because then he doesn't have the stress of dealing with Toronto media and the chaos is which being the Toronto Maple Leafs GM. So I have nothing personal against him, but as far as a fan who roots for the team, it's he didn't do anything spectacular in the sense which he deserves any type of leverage. So that's probably where Shanny said, well, you were asked to not really go into too much detail in that post-season press conference. He did it. And then on top of that, his agent came back asking for a little bit more money. My understanding is over the course of the deal that he was offered, he wanted $3 million more. So it would have averaged out to, let's say, $700,000 more a year, and more control of the decisions to where there wasn't as much roundtable discussion. He wanted to trust his side of things and the team that he's assembled. Because of all the inner table, I want to say he's brought, what I was reading online, which we can't always believe, was he brought in 11 of the 16 guys that are really involved in a lot of these types of decisions and a lot of things that he bounces off of, including Jason Spezza, where once Dubas was gone, boom, resignation papers coming from Jason Spezza. So it seems like Dubas at least from the inside, is very well liked. He's an extremely loyal guy. And I truly believe he was the type of GM where he woke up every day. He put everything he could into trying to make that team a winner. He turned over every stone to see if he was making the right decision. But at the end of the day, the job wasn't done. But if I truly believed that he wanted to be a part of this and was taking any form of accountability to what he wanted to do moving forward with this team, he wouldn't have done what he did. He was looking for leverage, and he might have gotten it, and he might get what he wants from a different organization. But all I can say as a fan is sayonara. And for every Leafs fan being like, oh, they should have just gave it to him, it's like, nah, you're setting a bad precedent, just like he did with giving those guys who didn't have any leverage, Marner and Matthews, everything that they wanted. And here we are.
Biz, and the fans who were saying we should have just given him whatever he wanted, that's where Shanahan comes in, okay? So his press conference was amazing. And I don't think it's been very common, if ever, to hear a GM, a president openly talk about how the entire contract negotiation went with the GM and how it all broke down. And I mean, it was very detail oriented. And part of it was probably when Dubas gave his press conference, he said, I watched it and I'm driving home. And he started thinking like, well, he made it clear that he doesn't even know if he wants to be the GM of the Leafs. Okay. Now you go into who Shanahan is. A guy who's won everything you could ever win. A legend of the game as a player. And that's not like somebody you're going to like push around. And I'm using push around like in a ridiculous term, but he's like, whoa. That's how I look at it. Like, hold on here. Like, you almost should be thankful at what we gave you. And instead, like, now you're coming out with this press conference, your agent, I think Dubas said him and his agent would call him. The agent called him, and then Dubas wrote him an email. So who knows if,
why doesn't he just text him?
Old school, though, you said you're going to call someone and you don't. These old school guys, that could be the end of you.
It's cowardly.
And I just, in the end, think that he overplayed his hand a little bit. But having said that, like, if he knows he's going to get hired by Pittsburgh or somewhere else, he didn't really overplay his hand. He was trying to get as much as he could in Toronto, and in his mind, he truly believes, I don't really care if I'm here or not.
But I'm speaking from a Leafs fan and Leafs Nation perspective, where it's like, if that's the case, and like Shanahan said, he clearly really didn't care about being GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He cared about securing his bag. I will never judge or shame anybody for that. But the way that it went about, and even to the fact where it seems as if he was offered a contract before they even won a fucking playoff round. There you go. That's being like, hey, we believe in you. We're going to provide you with some security, regardless of what happens this playoff round, where let's see if we can get this thing going moving forward. So now all of a sudden, look at the situation that he's put this organization in moving forward, where now all of a sudden the golden boy Matthews has to be re-up before July 1st, or they risk the chance of losing him for nothing. So now they got to go out and from everybody's understanding is they're going out and trying to look for somebody with experience. The two names that have popped up are Tree Living and Doug Armstrong. Also, could be a rumor. Heard that people are like, well, Doug Armstrong still has time left on his contract with St. Louis. I heard he has an out clause for a few teams that was put in there. And when you win a Stanley Cup with a team, that's when you start getting the leverage. That's leverage. Yeah. So he has an out clause to go to Toronto if he so chooses. So we'll see what happens with that. But overall, just tons of drama in Leafland. And I don't think you can blame anyone from the Leaf side of things for being like, all right, man, then fuck off. But I also can't blame Dubas if he ends up securing his bag with any other organization. Do you think he ends up with Pittsburgh, Army?
Well, that's been talked for how many months now? I think that they've been linked together, so that
Do you think he's a coward?
He's like Fenway likes
I
the
think
style
he's like
of
best friends with the Red Sox GM Jaime.
That's what it is.
Do you think he's a coward? Do you think he's a coward if he doesn't stay in Toronto for next year, considering he said he wasn't going to take a job and he would chill and relax because of the stress that it's put on him and his family?
I don't think he's a coward. No, I wouldn't say he's a coward.
Why? Because you're fucking paid by the Pittsburgh Penguins?
Well, no, I just think he's probably tried to negotiate himself into a position.
So that seems a little bit slimy based on the press conference. No?
Yeah, I was watching the press conference, which was like
Army was you were loving it. You were texting me.
I texted you guys on the group chat because I was like, I sent it to you guys. I'm like, you guys seeing this right now? Like Shanny's story time with Shanny, where he was just breaking down this whole thing. And I got the craziest thought in my head afterwards. And this is maybe I'm crazy. Maybe this is tinfoil.
Let's hear it.
Tinfoil hat Army. I was like, he's driving home, and he all of a sudden is like, "What the fuck, Dubas?" You know. And in my head, I'm thinking, he heard something. He might have heard something already. In the days between him talking to him, to the agent talking to him, to the email, to the press conference, don't do it, don't do it. He does it. I think, and then there's 3 days after that.
You don't think, you know something. Spill the fucking beans,
I don't know anything.
Bullshit.
This is tinfoil conspiracy guy.
Bullshit. You're blaming it on the tinfoil hat.
I was thinking,
I think the press conference.
What if Shanny knows more, though? What if Shanny doesn't like that? Yes, but what if Shanny heard something? What if Shanny heard, I heard Dubas is, his agent was talking to wherever. I don't know.
Biz. As a Leafs fan,
and then he gets the thing in his head.
If Matthews all of a sudden's like, no, I don't want to sign here because Dubas left. Like, does he want to be a Leaf? You're telling me the GM like that? If it's a new GM, you're done.
But the guys follow GMs to sign with them.
That's what I'm saying.
They do if they're gonna pay him.
Yeah,
like he gave him everything. He gave him everything he wanted, including at the number that. And listen, like I always want the players to get paid, but we all know if you get paid that drastic amount, it makes it more difficult to win. And I'm all about guys also getting paid when they've proven that they can do it. Like Crosby didn't even necessarily get paid based on the fact that he'd proven it. So you see all these other guys who clearly want to win that know if I take the bag that it's going to not help me moving forward because you need more guys throughout the lineup to help carry the weight. Whereas not only did he get the bag, but he got it for a 5-year term. If he would have gotten $11.5 million at that time at 8 years, I would have been like, that's a steal. But now all of a sudden he gets the 11.5 at a 5-year where, I mean, with, I'm drawing a blank here on his agent here. Fuck
Judd.
Oh, Judd.
Guy's a beast.
He's a beast. He's a jugger. Look at Werenski, like all of his guys. Yossi, like he knows what the fuck he's doing. He has these GM's balls in a mason jar on his fucking shelf for crying out loud. So I think that I could now see an old experienced general manager maybe coming in and say, I think that maybe this is a guy we can move based on what he probably is expecting to get paid.
Let me ask you this.
Well, go
do
ahead.
you think Shanny did any kind of damage on Dubas by kind of making it look like he's maybe not negotiating
if teams
properly?
Want him, they want him. They don't care.
Yeah, they don't give a fuck about Toronto.
Do you think that Shanny was trying to do that a little bit, or do you think he was just being forthright?
I think he said, I'm going to be so open and honest and tell everyone exactly what's happened and put it in their court. And it was amazing to see. And the court of public opinion, he knew, I'm guessing, would be like, what is Dubas doing? But we're also saying he's going to get money from somebody else, so we understand what he's doing.
You already touched on it, right? Shanahan's won, like, he's got 4 Stanley Cups, 3 Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
He's been around all these winners with the Detroit organization. One of the comments was he wanted maybe more say, Dubas, like more control of what was going around, where if he in fact had to report these types of things to Shanahan as to what he was doing, why, if you're the organization, why would you not want that? The fuck is Dubas won? Nothing. Why wouldn't you want a guy like Shanahan at your round table? Like, say, and I don't know.
I would want him personally. Now, granted, I don't know the relationship, but I know for me, if I was a GM, which is, I mean, there's 0 chance of that ever happening, but I would want as many minds around who've won it, who've been through it, and
bingo.
And maybe like answering to somebody is just that annoying when you're like, and especially if they disagree completely on building a team. But for me, it was just once the real story was told, and I think we'll get Dubas's reaction to Shanahan. I'm guessing, maybe we won't. But once the real story was told, I was like, all right, well, I don't think he wants to be there as bad as he's saying. That was my takeaway.
I can't wait for the comeback. I can't wait for the comeback interview by Dubas. I hope he does it.
He's going to sign in the next
Penguins jersey.
He's going to sign in the next week with the Penguins. We'll be on here next week.
It'll be a PPG Paints Arena.
To that point, if he wanted to stay in Toronto, then the compensation wouldn't be the end all be all, right? I mean, like
if you wanted to stay in Toronto, you're taking not the first offer, but one of the early offers before you'd won a round. At least personally, I'm like, whoa, you're going to give me $4 million a year for 4 more years, and we haven't, and it's January. I'm in. If I really want to be a Maple Leaf.
Hey, Dubas is at PPG Paints Arena doing his press conference, let's just say. And I'm there in the front row. So, Kyle, what'd you think of Shanny's interview? First guy.
He's like, I love Sid. I love Malkin. I love the
Do you
Tang.
think you're a coward for saying that you're going to stay in Toronto for an extra year and now you're here and now you're my neighbor?
Oh, hold on.
Like,
I got
honey,
something coming in here.
Press conference. I'm
Kyle, one more follow up, please. What was that, Biz? What was it? Biz, what do you want me to ask him? Kyle, do you feel like a coward?
Do you feel like a coward or a pussy with what you did?
That was from Biz.
Crazy times, though. I mean, just now the whole Matthews thing and the no move in July 1st and who they're going to hire, some good storylines.
Yeah, and Elliot said they want a GM with some bite, like bite in quotes. I mean, obviously that's probably a guy who's been around. That's what I was going to say.
That's a chirp. That's a chirp at Dubas.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think they're going to bring in a veteran or a fresh face. I mean, Ray Whitney's a guy who's looking for a job, but
Ray Whitney and Shane Doan should be hired by a team out there right now. Have those two guys run the organization, and you'll be good within 3 years. I guarantee it. But the Leafs, as Biz mentioned, Tree Living and Doug Armstrong, I would guess it's one of those two.
Yeah,
and finally, Calgary's giving it permission. That's been the big story. Calgary wouldn't even let teams talk to him. Like, told you to fire Sutter. You didn't fire him. Then you fired him after you got rid of him. Like, let him go, dude.
My understanding is they asked if he would come back, Tree. That's what I've been hearing. And he was like, nah, I'm good. Throwing out another name too is I've heard Mark Hunter, who was with the organization when Lou was around, and then he obviously went back to London, where he owns part of the franchise, and they run an absolute juggernaut there in junior.
That's
Grinelli's new sugar daddy. But so aside from those 3 names, I haven't heard any other name pop up. That's just the 3 that I've heard. And I have you guys heard anything else?
I mean, no, not. I mean, Bergevin. There's a list of like potential guys. Bergevin was thrown out there, but that's just a list of guys basically who are unemployed right now. I don't think they're going to bring.
It's like all the guys that were rumored to be interviewed with. All the guys that are said to probably be interviewed with the Penguins too, I imagine.
Shirelli
right?
trades Matthews for Gudas straight up.
I got a question. Who do you think would have potential like to be a GM first, Biz or Witt? Maybe that's for Chiclets Nation.
I think the team would go.
You know how many good trades I could think of on a hike? You know how many good trades I could think of on a hike, a nature hike? You'd be fucked, Witt.
Right near that water path. You'd be
like, it's a trade deadline. Where the fuck is he? He's not in the boardroom.
He's cutting his arm off in a rock.
It's like, Biz, the deadline's over. It's like, oh shit, I did the John Mayer Trail. I was too busy crushing whores on the John Mayer.
The
I thought it was tomorrow.
Man. Don't bother me. I thought the deadline's next month. Before we go any farther, I'm going to talk to you about Father's Day. And being a dad myself, it's a great day. You had Mother's Day earlier in May. Now it's your time. And every dad out there has their own dad to be shopping for. There's always people that need a gift on Father's Day. And since it's coming up so fast, and if you haven't started shopping yet, don't even sweat it. We have the ultimate gift inspiration so you can finally be your father's favorite child. Even better, if you are a dad, like I mentioned, get yourself the gift this year that you'll actually enjoy. You know, you end up getting all these different gifts. You're like, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Love you. And you're just like, this thing's never going to be used or wore, but not with G4. Win the gifting game with exclusive limited edition golf shoes from G4. We took a look, and here are our top picks. The Mock Toe Gallivanter is the essential shoe for the traditional golfer. All about that athletic look? Get your hands on the MG4 Plus golf shoes. Those can be worn anywhere. It's foolproof gifting because whichever style you choose is still a premium pair of golf shoes. You know dads do a ton for you. Everyone's dad out there, especially when you become a dad, you realize what your fathers have done and how much you appreciate them. So get him the shoes, get him the golf shoes he's going to look great in and crush the course in. Check out G4.com.
That's GFORE.com/4, FORE, for 10% off your first order. Get it shipped in time. Order by June 9th for guaranteed delivery by Father's Day. Go to G4.com/4 for 10% off your first order.
Well, Ami, you mentioned Pittsburgh. Great segue. They said they've been aiming to interview 10 to 12 GM candidates as part of their, quote, first wave. The Berger van, Eric Tulsky, Jason Kamanos, Peter Chiarelli confirmed of among those are the first wave of candidates. And then Pierre LeBrun said among those believed to be in the second wave, Eric Tulsky, Dan McKinnon, Witt's buddy Steve Greeley, Jason Kamanos, and Matthew Daché. A very fluid process, but who knows what the Penguins are going to do after hiring Hextall, Ami, right?
Well, I don't know. Yeah. And now that Fenway's in charge, right, and they're handling this, it's like when they've hired Hextall, it was, previously, and it was a total different, and it's a different president too of the team. But I would assume that it's, Fenway all hands on deck in trying to select this one. So I haven't really heard anything, to be honest with you, other than what those guys are, like the insiders are putting out there and seeing the names. But I'd imagine they'd, I was thinking when the Leafs job came up, I'm like, whoa, like this changes a lot of things possibly. Like what about your guys, or what about your final three, or you're down to your last five guys? And now this Leaf job opened up while you were, interviewing everyone. Like what kind of, trail off is that, or enticing to, go and obviously interview in Toronto as well? I imagine a lot of those names that they're talking to want to go and interview for that job.
You got to be our Pittsburgh insider from here on out. You can't be playing both sides, Army.
Yeah, I know. I got to get down there and figure some stuff out. I honestly, I've only heard what's going on. So I don't know if it's coming from Boston, like the Fenway guys are doing it. So
you throw your resume in, Army?
I haven't yet. I should throw something in there.
Yeah, I get it.
Hey, what am I going to do? I think player development.
Is it not a little? I mean, it's an NHL GM job. There's 32 of them. It's well coveted, I guess I'll say. But going to Pittsburgh right now, I'd be like, oh boy, this could get ugly in the next year or two.
I would look at it like no pressure.
It's supposed
because you just missed playoffs.
But no pressure. But the fact that in 4 years into your deal, like, and the team could be shit.
I think you just try to win a cup for 3 years. That's what you try to do.
How are they going to win a cup? How are they going to win a cup?
I don't know.
Does that sound? I mean, I don't know. They have 3 awesome players? They're getting older, and they have no prospects and not many draft picks. I don't really. It'd have to be an amazing job done by that GM to make them contenders again.
It would be.
Yeah. Elliot Friedman did say the Pens are expected to reach out for permission to talk to Dubas, so wouldn't be surprised if he gets it in the long run. But going over to Calgary, Darren Dreger reports that Craig Conroy is going to be named the GM this week. No real surprise. He's been the assistant for 9 years. 32 thoughts with Elliot and buddy Jeff Marek mentioned that the Flames want Jerome Ginlimore involved, but I guess he only wants to be involved if Craig Conroy's the GM, his old teammate, which looks like it's going to happen. So this seems like it's going to happen to you. I mean, makes all sense. People have been talking about it for a long time. Tree's gone. Conroy's been the guy in waiting, and bring in Jerome now. No.
Yeah, some young blood in there. And I mean, he's been with the organization as a player, and then he's been Tree Living's right-hand man, working with Don Maloney as well, right? Because Don's been there for a few years. So I think it's a great pick. And you go back to that roundtable idea. From my understanding, though, Jerome McGinley is going to coach his kid who's playing in the Western League or going to the Western Hockey League. He wants to coach him for 1 more year and then would plan on joining that brass. So overall, great hire, and Craig Conroy he's a fucking awesome dude, very well respected in that community. So I think it's a great start, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. I mean, I would imagine that team is in playoffs next year. They still have great players. I think that they had a mutiny essentially against Daryl Sutter. So once they find a great head coach and get some new blood in there, I think they're going to be right back on track, man. So I'm excited to see it, and I've been very complimentary of Don Maloney. Like, he was working with the Coyotes at the time, and they had no budget, and he could squeeze a nickel so tight the beaverage shit as far as the good deals and guys overachieving on those deals. In my time there, I mean, we went to an Eastern Conference final. I think we were right at the basement as far as the salary cap's concerned. So a great guy and a very good hockey mind, and they're gonna have they're in good hands.
Again, the son is heading into his 3rd season with the WHL Seattle Thunderbirds.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously Jerome McGinley is not a coach for the Seattle Thunderbirds, but he wants to be around
go to
for
his games.
go to his games, like help out with his development, because then at a certain point he's going to have to turn pro, and then it's like, hey, who was he drafted to any NHL team? His kid?
No, he's not drafted.
Let me ask you: does Iggy own?
Not yet. No, he has not been drafted.
Iggy owns Kamloops Blazers with a group of guys, right? Is Donor one of those guys?
Daryl
Mark
Recchi, Donor, and they're hosting the Mem Cup this year.
Yeah, and Seattle just won the Western Hockey League to go to the Memorial Cup too. The Thunderbirds did, so that's kind of funny.
Oh yeah, I heard they have 7 first-round draft picks to the NHL on that Seattle team. So they're a wagon. They're more than likely going to win the Memorial Cup.
7 first-rounders?
That's what, because they made a big trade at the deadline.
They got that D-man from Canada, like Zellweger. That kid's sick.
Yeah.
I butchered his name.
Olin Zellweger.
Yeah, G can pull it up. I'm pretty sure it's 7 first-rounders.
Didn't Kamloops get him? Am I wrong?
Hey, Craig Conroy. I was with him.
Maybe. We're all over the place.
I was with Craig Conroy. I don't remember if it was a summer like skate or one of the lockout skates. I don't know, but he was a machine. That guy was one of those gym rats, just like full workout before the skate, get on, fly around, workout after. And he's been there so long. And nowadays, with today's technology, he scored the cup-winning goal. I believe that would be a goal, Game 6 against Tampa Bay in Calgary. I think it went across the line, but they didn't have the review.
Parallax angle. No, parallax angle.
Is that what they say?
They're going to tell you.
Okay, I thought
Canada was
I
robbed.
thought people have proven that one was a goal, but
I think that was Marty Jelena. It might have been Marty Jelena.
Yeah. We're all for the century right now.
Yeah, I haven't got one thing right there.
Yeah, big red mile guy here. Just
either way, Craig Conroy, he's the man for the job.
Darts with Kiprasov.
Maybe he had an assist on the play.
Yeah, it probably was. It probably was, but I think it's smart to keep him around. He's been around there forever. I mean, what can you do for experience?
Year. That could be bounce back. You think Huberdeau's going to be way better, and the team's good. Like Biz said, Markstrom, those guys all couldn't stand Sutter. He's gone. Little bit of a change of mind, change of attitude around the arena, and maybe that team takes off.
I mean, the next coach probably isn't going to play Huberdeau in his off fucking wing like Sutter did last year. Just kind of fucked everything up.
And 15 minutes a night.
They're saying Mitch Love might be in for that one.
No shit.
Yeah, I heard his name pop up.
The Thunderbirds have 3 first-round picks on their roster, but their whole team just head to toe, though. They got tons of seconds, tons of thirds.
I was
They're
close.
Loaded.
I was close.
Yeah, you were almost halfway there.
4 off. I mean, if you round down.
7's an odd number. I was like 7 first round.
Oh, they got that. Didn't they get that kid from the Coyotes? Where's he go? Is he OHL?
We should probably stop talking about this.
Oh, that Gunther? We interviewed him.
Dylan Gunther.
72.
The sniper.
Did he go there? Gunther, I think. The old Coyote kid they sent back.
All right, boys. We're going to move it over to the series right now. And we mentioned them earlier.
Time out.
20?
Biz was correct.
Yeah, there
Biz
you go.
was correct. They have exactly how many first-round picks, as he said.
Yeah, There you go, boys. Can I get an apology?
The podcast needed
Can I get an apology, Whit?
I apologize.
Hey, you know what your punishment should be?
I mean, Grinelli should apologize. He's the one who came on and said it was 3.
I apologize, Biz. I sandbagged you there. I was looking at the 18-19 roster. 2022, 2023, they had 7.
Whit, you have to hike the Appalachian Trail. That's your punishment with those rusty old ankles.
I'll rub RA's feet before I do that.
He's gonna find the only 4 seasons in West Virginia and fucking sleep there.
The hills have eyes. Biz's 14th trek of the month.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, here's a word from our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the exclusive ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. Created by fans for fans, Game Time is the ticketing app that makes it easier than ever to score last-minute tickets on deals to sports, concerts, and shows, and they guarantee the lowest price. This summer, Guns N' Roses are coming back. Got to go see Axl and Slash Man. Part of my childhood. They're going to Fenway. Got to check that out. Plus, playoff games. I mean, might go down to Florida for a game. Who knows? I might go to Vegas. I'm going to hook it up at Game Time. They take care of you no matter where you go. It's possible with the Game Time app. It's the biggest last-minute price drops that can be found anywhere on the internet. Seats you never thought you could buy. Game Time makes it happen. And the purchase process takes 2 taps and 10 seconds. And once you buy your tickets, they're delivered directly to your phone. No printer needed. And the app also allows you to easily share tickets with friends. you can text it to them so they get the game seamlessly, no pain in the butt. No dealing with idiots out front, no paper tickets. Boom, send the text, you're in the game. So skip the hassle, enjoy the moment, and download the Game Time app or go to the website, enter your email, and redeem the code Chiclets for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Once again, download the Game Time app or go to the website, enter your email, redeem code Chiclets for $20 off your first purchase, and enjoy the best seats in the game from Game Time. All right, boys. We're going to move over to the series now. We already talked about Matthew Tkachuk, but overtime game going to go on the road in games 1 and 2. Red Hot Panthers got a 2-0 lead, heading home for games 3 and 4. Game 1 Thursday looked like it was heading for a 5th overtime. 13 seconds left. Tkachuk beats Freddie Anderson. I don't know. I think it was Bernsey trying to pass the puck to I'm not sure if it was Slavin or Jarvis. Either way, popped out. Just one of those quick bang, boom, booms. Game's over. The 6th longest game in playoff history, the longest ever for each franchise. Also, the 2nd longest game since the salary cap came. But, as good as Tkachuk's, but we got to talk about Bobrovsky, man. Like, this guy, we beat him up a little earlier. $10 million goalie, blah, blah, blah. And we kind of forgot how fucking good he could be. He won 2 Vezinas, and he's been outstanding. I think he's been the team MVP thus far. Biz, let's get your take on basically Florida the first 2 games here.
I thought they came out and were great in the first 40 minutes. Carolina, for the first time all playoffs, looked flat, and it could have been the layoff. We talked to Matthew Tkachuk after the game. He said, like, after that first round, going right into that next series was actually valuable to them, where they could just keep the momentum. But given the fact that they were banged up and a little bit exhausted, the layover, he said that it helped them. They got their legs back. But like you said, RA, it goes back to Bobrovsky. Every time they need a big save, he's there to provide it. I've been fucking stressing this. If you want to score on them, you got to go upstairs. The only 2 goals they had on them, they went upstairs in game 1. And really, for Carolina, it was the special teams that saved them. They were great on the penalty kill as usual, and they scored both their goals on the power play. But, going back to Florida, man, they refused to die. And Matthew Tkachuk, who maybe hasn't stood out like he has in the first 2 series, he just comes through in the clutch, man, and he's always sniffing around. He's so good around the net. And Sam Bennett, like, the one thing about Carolina is they pressure, and they'll even do so even out to the walls. And on that play in overtime, they try to go up the strong side, and Bennett just did a good job of breathing down their neck, picks the thing off, sets them up perfect, and he ends up going upstairs on Anderson. So really, man, it's just like big plays at big moments. I thought that they really deserved game 1. The overtime, though, as a whole was awful. It felt like after the first 5 minutes of the first overtime, nobody was willing to take a risk offensively. They just kept everything to the outside, and it was pretty fucking boring. Would you guys not agree?
I was losing it. There was 15 icings in the second overtime, I think.
It's still high drama, though, I mean,
no, I know, but it was, looking back, it was like a historical game. I fell asleep in the third overtime on the couch. I remember seeing 15 minutes on the clock. I woke up, there was 7 minutes left in the 4th overtime. I'm like, they're still playing? But at that point, I'd had a little cat nap. And so I was like, oh my God, I hope this thing goes like 9 overtimes. And I thought it was going 5. I couldn't believe it was 12 seconds left. But for him to do it again in game 2, and then the same end of the arena, let's go right to the door. Let's go, boys. Time to go home. Like, what an amazing celebration. The fact it happened twice is out of this world, and both goals were awesome. I mean, perfect shot in the first game, and then the tic-tac-toe play in the second game where he still went up top. He didn't even need to. In and out, and they're up 2-0. It's just... It's Florida's playing. Florida will play exactly like Carolina will, but they have some more top end talent, and so I picked Carolina in 7. I don't think they're going to go down like I hammered them in game 2. I think I'm going to hammer them again in game 3. But Florida's 9-1 since they lost game 4 to the Bruins. They're not 9-1. Their goalie he's amazing. How about the offside one timer? Who had that chance on me?
That was game 2.
Oh,
it was Teravainen. That was the save on playoffs. It was game 2. It would have made it. I want to say it would have made it 2-0. It was in the second period. Maybe it would have made it 2-1. But it was remarkable, and it goes back to what Darren Pang and Lundqvist have been talking about in the way that he holds his stick. how he's able to keep his blocker where he does, where he's in tight. So everything around there from the bottom half of the net, he's able to attack, and he just attacked it with his blocker and timed it perfectly. And nothing much you could do for Teravainen. Like you try to go upstairs, but you're one touching the thing, right? So in a lot of cases, it's just strictly reactional. But at the end of the day, man, it's his Bobrovsky's east to west game is like his Vezina seasons, where he just strictly can't be beat on the bottom half of the net, no matter how quick that puck is moving east to west.
And it was crazy. The game 1 overtime, you mentioned it, RA, the Burns Slavin, lapse, I guess you could say, just kind of like thrown around. I don't know if it hit the ref or something, but what a shot by Tkachuk. And then the next one, I think it was Coop on your broadcast that kind of pointed out the gong show that happened in the corner with Burns and Slavin again.
Yeah, he lost
with his stick going through Burns's skate, and then he can't get back to the net to pick up Tkachuk on the bang bang backdoor little give and go there. It was just amazing to see how that happened again. And then Tkachuk, those sweet little hands, he just kind of he kind of corrals it over top of him. I mean, it's just unbelievable to see how both those games went like that.
If Tkachuk just shoots that as opposed to cradling that second overtime goal, there's a chance Raanta gets a piece of that.
I think he hits his foot.
I guess he did need to go upstairs. I said he didn't even really need to, but you're right. He could have got the pad over.
But Army, going back to what you're saying, and Coop was talking about behind the scenes too, and he's very complimentary. Rob Brindamore's system's incredible. There's a reason they don't give up a ton of high nature scoring chances. I thought for the most part in game 2, they controlled the play and they deserved to win game 2. But on the first goal, you saw it where Foss got caught out there for a 1 and 20-second shift, where when you pressure, it's okay if you just go to the wall, but if you get beat off the wall like Barkov did, and then even in the case of Shea, Brady Shea was there, but he's anticipating maybe his guy ends up getting the puck, so he ends up skating outside of that danger area to go close on his guy in case he does get it, and that just parts the seas for Mahura, who had an incredible game. He ended up drawing that penalty in overtime too, where they won it on. He finds that seam to go to Barkov. Now, going back to that power play goal in overtime, there's a reason why all the other teams in the league don't play man-to-man and they protect the house. It's for that simple reason where Brent Burns' back is against the glass. So in most cases, there's going to be a defenseman between the net and where those guys are at in the corner where it's a no danger area. But because they like the pressure, Slavin goes to attack his guy and he goes stick on puck first. And it just so happens it goes between that guy's legs and it goes right in Brent Burns' tuck.
It's crazy.
The probability of that happening, guys, is probably like 1 in 1,000, maybe even more, maybe 1 in 10,000 of you going to poke the puck there if that guy's behind and it ends up in his tuck. So it gets stuck so much where when Slavin goes back to pull his stick out of it, it ain't coming. He drops it, and that once again parts the seas where they can grab that. Bennett slides it over to Reinhart. Reinhart, just a wonderful, wonderful pass. Most guys are shooting that puck in panic mode. He takes his patience with it, slides it over Tkachuk, and 2 times in that game, they get bit on the way that they like to pressure the puck defensively and play man on man. It sucks for them. They still dominated defensively, and it works for them, but it just so happens that it burns them the way they play.
Do you see Gudis get that interference penalty where he just got, what was it? What did he get for tripping? But he went at him and he just fucking Gudis' face just right into the side of his leg. Like he didn't care. He's so reckless. That's what Florida, a lot of their guys are just playing this reckless, hard in your face game. They're flying. And you know what? Carolina in game 2, they got 1 and everything was good. It was shots were 19-2 or something at one. It was crazy. And they couldn't get another. And RA was just, Bob equals king.
Bob's dialed.
Bob equals dialed or zone. Bob equals zone.
Gudis, nobody's touched him all playoffs. And finally, Jarvis got him with the reverse hit. I was like, at one point, somebody's going to hit Gudis, right? Boom. You don't see that guy go down ever.
Buddy, watch the games, guys. Watch the games. Watch the game tomorrow. I feel like Florida is dictating. Obviously, I think, Carolina's they play pretty physical. Like they play an aggressive game, but like Florida, when they're going on a loose puck, like they're more often than not, like they're coming to get it. It's just another level. And you can see they kind of are unsure. Like they're unsure, like they'll make sure that the other guy, like they're not going to get there so that they get whacked. You know what I mean?
I felt in game 2 that Carolina was dictating physically early on. That was just, I mean, that's my opinion on it. And we probably have a lot of Florida fans losing their minds right now at the fact that we haven't talked about that Barkov goal. The fake between the legs, the fake Kachuk, the patience in that moment. Wayne Gretzky said it was one of the best goals he's ever seen come playoff time as far as like clutchness and patience.
He's so silky.
You see, Jackie Redmond had a tweet.
Oh, about how many goals that he's been on for 5-on-5 against?
Well, you're saying that. I'll say Barkov too has in this series especially, and I think he's been criticized for being huge and like really good, but not as physical. I think he's been rather physical and involved with his body, like a difference maker, you know? And then on top of it, cherry on top, his hands are amazing.
So going into game 2, Barkov had been on the ice for just 1 goal against at 5-on-5 in the last 7 games. Goes back to game 7 against Boston. He's played 134 at even strength in those games. And over that span, it's 6-1 Panthers. Then I think he scored, it was 5-on-5 or it was even strength, I believe. And so that turns into 7-1. He wasn't on the ice for the goal against. Just, I kind of dogged him in the Boston series. You didn't even really notice him.
Mm-hmm.
And people were wondering if he was hurt, but I think defensively all that time, he was still getting the job done. Now the offense is clicking while still being this horse both ends. That's kind of what I'm saying, that Florida will play Carolina's style, but then they have Barkov and Kachuk and yes, I mean, Aho's up there, and on the back end, Burns and Slavin, but they've been out there for the goals against. There's great players on Carolina, but at the top end of talent, Florida's got 2, 3, 4 guys that I think are above anything in the Hurricanes lineup.
They're still playing their bag off, but this is when you're starting to see the missing Svechnikov and Pacioretty.
Yeah.
And Teravainen's probably not 100%. I mean, he just had fucking surgery, for crying out loud. And maybe if he is healthy, he does score that 1-touch goal and goes upstairs on Bob. But right now, and you just talked about that stat from Barkov, Mike Kelly, who's great with all the stats and analytics too. He's out of Canada, and I think he actually does some work with the NHL Network as well, and maybe some other programming. But he was talking about the fact that Florida they don't give away the puck as much as any other team. And coming into the series, or even after game 1, they'd only allowed 1 goal all playoff longs as far as after a turnover, where they had scored 10 goals off creating turnovers and that massive forecheck that we talk about. So talk about a team that's not handing over wins, and then mix that within the fact that they have Bobrovsky in net. That's a recipe for success, along with everybody who's listening and Army. I think it was maybe even you or maybe Jans touched on it. This has LA Kings vibes when they got that 8th seed, and they have this mojo that you can't fabricate it. They got the mojo right now. Everybody's tugging the rope. It's fun to watch. It's fun to see. And as far as that whole city's concerned, you get the Miami Heat, who got the 8th seed, and they're up 2-0 after winning 2 games on the road.
And they're smoking the Celtics right now. They're up by 18.
Well, so there, and then you got Jimmy Butler rocking a Kachuk jersey. So as far as Miami and Fort Lauderdale, they're just feeling it right now. The city of champions has awakened.
Yeah, you don't tug on Superman's cape like, what's his face? Williams, Witt was it, like talking shit to fucking Jimmy Butler of all guys, like just basically fired him up, and then he come and stuffed it down their throat the other night, the Celtics game. But actually, Biz, I want to go to Mike Rupp's video he made, that real subtle move that Kachuk made on the game winner on the second goal. He put his stick on a Jordan Stahl stick, so he couldn't like try to poke check Bennett, who made I think Bennett to Reinhart was the pass. It was just a real subtle thing, but like, he was unable to get a sweep check or a stick check on it, and that made the pass happen. Just one of those things that you might not even notice, and Rupp drew attention to it. I thought it was a dynamite little video he made. Also, another guy I think we got to talk about is Gustav Forsling, man. This guy, I said the other night, it's Swedish for Dennis Seidenberg, and not that he's like the bruiser Seidenberg was, just kind of like one of these unheralded guys on a cup run that, you know, not everybody talks about first, but he's been unbelievable, man. He's got 5 points in 14 games. He played 55 minutes in that OT game, second on the team in ice time. This guy, they got him on waivers from who? Carolina, like 2 years ago, and now he's playing this key role and fucking mushing their face in it right now. So I think we got to give him some props too.
He can motor.
Yeah, he's got a bomb too.
Yeah, he's been a lot of fun to watch.
And listen, I obviously some talk online like, oh, other than the OT goals, Tkachuk's been a little bit invisible. Fuck off. Is there a better guy around the net than Matthew Tkachuk on the planet? Those, like you just talked about that subtle move. He just creates so much space for his teammates out there. He uses his body so well as far as backing into guys and just being a pain in the ass at the top of the paint, making it a nightmare for opposition goalies. He helped carry the team in the first round and partway through the second round. Yeah, maybe due to the fact he's a little bit banged up, was a little bit invisible later in that second round. But it's all about coming through in the clutch, man. Just waiting for your time to shine. And there's no moment too big for him right now. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, we touched on it earlier, just being a WWE superstar on the mic. So the league has found its superstar as far as Americans are concerned. And I know I was getting criticism for saying he's one of the best American, if not the best American on the planet. Well, eat your words, folks, because I think I was right on that one.
And I got to give credit. Their D is like Ekblad, Montour, and then you go Gudis and Stahl, and then you go Forsling too. Like, I mean, they're warriors. Like, and they're all over the ice. They're physical. They're reckless. They're smart. They're big. They can fly. So I don't know if anyone gave them enough credit. Mark Stahl has been a beast.
Dude, Mark Stahl. Beast. I played golf with him around the All-Star break. The guy, he planned on playing 10, 12 minutes a game, right? I mean, he's towards the end of his career. It's been an amazing run for him, and he's playing a huge role, and he's a force out there. It's just, NHL's so weird. Like, they struggle all year. They get in. The Cinderella story is not Marchand missing the Game 5 breakaway to win the series in 5. It's not the Pasternak hitting the knob early in OT at Game 7 when Bobrovsky got real lucky. It beat him and hit his knob. Pittsburgh lost to the Blackhawks at the end of the regular season. The fact they're even in, and now they're just running all over this league. It's an amazing story that, as I continue to think it would be ending, picking against them every single round. I'm down so much money on these guys. Like, bet them one time. They're 9-1 in their last 10. I've probably bet against them 7 times. It's a wild story. So
it's because RA keeps saying fucking bets. He keeps coming into the chat with us, and he's like, "Oh, here we go," and then we all have to go against RA.
The Bruins diehard who's now at Panthers cookouts and wearing the gear everywhere. It's a ridiculous story.
I don't like Bryson DeChambeau, whatever the fuck his name is. I bet him in golf today, buddy. So, you know. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Rat King. Get your Rat King shirt. Barstool Sports shop. Yep. I don't know if he likes the name Rat King, but either way, we're fucking pulling for him. Ami, let me ask you, were you surprised that they went to Antti Rantanen game 2? I know it was a big, long game a couple nights before, but, you know, Florida come back with Bob, but they didn't.
I was. I'm not going to lie. I was. Like, I know the talk is like these guys use 2 goalies. It's how they roll. It's what they're used to. They played a long game last game. You know, this is a luxury that they have, that it's no big deal. And I don't think Ranta played poorly. I thought he played well, but I was still surprised that they did that just because. I don't know. I think he's their number one, you know, like if you have to look at it, that's what I would, that's how I think. So I was a little bit surprised in that situation, not letting him come back in and try to, you know, get a W again, coming back the other way. You know how guys are when they want to get back in there and they want to do the job. So I you know what? I give him credit. I give him credit.
That was a ballsy call. And yeah, like I give him, I give him credit for making the call. I give him credit for sticking to what they've always done and where their comfort level is, and maybe saying, hey, listen, like, I know you probably want this next one because, you know, that was a tough pill to swallow, but, you know, we're going to do what we feel comfortable with, and this is what we're going to do. So I give him credit for that. I really do. I mean, how about the start of that game? It must be hard for a goalie too, not seeing any rubber. Through the first 12 to 14 minutes, shots were 16-1 for Carolina. How does Bob do it after playing that many periods, getting peppered like that?
I was saying this when it was 1-0 though. I was like, oh shit, they don't get another one at the end of that first, and they can't separate. They couldn't separate. They couldn't like make it tough on Florida. They couldn't make them really chase the game.
Well, they were almost up 2. They got the both disallowed goals.
Double disallowed.
So that first 20 minutes was incredible.
Yeah.
As for Bob, 150 saves on 155 shots, last 3 games, all OT road wins. And the fancy stats, his best 3 games, what Bob's done the last 3 games, the best 3-game stretch by any goalie in a single playoff season since the data became available in 07-08, the last 3 games he's played. Just, that's why he's gotten the $10 million. Like, would you say he's earned it at this point, Biz?
Oh, yeah. I said when they beat Boston, it kind of made, and what he did coming in, it made I think the contract's now worth it. And then they do it against the Leafs. And how are you going to beat that team 4 out of the next 5 games? That I don't see, and they're going home. So it's the same thing as Toronto. And it's just an incredible story.
The only thing they could have hoped, who welded that shot off of Bob's head? It had popped his helmet off. I was like, that's the only thing they could hope on, that they hit a slapper in the head and he sees pink elephants flying around his head or something. I don't know.
Almost taken to prison for saying that the Wild should have ran Ottinger. So be careful what you're saying.
Well, yeah, I don't think I don't hope that happens. But like, he's so hot, he's so dialed. And all right, you're right. Bob equals the zone.
I think he could end up in the ECHL for the rest of his career after this season, making his money if he was playing so bad that the organization shouldn't give a fuck for what he's done for this team so far in this run. The only reason that they're here is because of Bob.
Yep. Yeah. Well, no, absolutely. Alex Lyon at the end of the year.
Yes, I know. Yeah. I'm talking playoff wise. Yes.
Yeah. A few other numbers as well. Panthers are outscoring the Canes 4-1 and 5-on-5 goals. Panthers now have the second longest road winning streak in Stanley Cup playoff history, 8 games. LA in 2012 is first with 10.
And they haven't lost in overtime, right?
6-0 in overtime. 5 OT road wins, ties the most ever. Back to Chuck. Matty now holds the team record for most points in a playoff year with 18. He's now gone farther than his old man has ever gone in the playoffs. Keith got to the conference finals 1 year with St. Louis, and they only won 1 game, so he's already won 2. So he's already surpassed the old man.
He's not farther already. No, he's not.
I agree with you, RA.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm not. It's not a subjective thing. I'm saying he's
won more games in the playoffs.
He's won more games in the playoffs would have been worded correctly. I didn't mean to jump down your throat, but if they lose the next 4, they went the same distance.
Right, but when Keith lost, St. Louis won 1 game. If Florida were to lose the series, they already won 2. That's all I meant. Like, he's gotten closer to the cup than his dad. I guess that's a better way to put it. Either way, his 3 overtime game-winning goals ties the most ever in a playoff year. The 4th player only to do that ever. And plus that other hustle play he made. I think it was Martinook was coming down. He dove his 3rd period, halfway through the 3rd, got his stick out, just prevented probably an easy goal. So, all right, enough with the stroke in there.
I got one more question. I got one more question. Can you guys see like next game going to overtime again though?
The fact that all 4 and Keith Yandel came on Game Notes Daily on Thursday afternoon. Before game 1, he said all these games are going to go OT. And he was talking about post conferences. I haven't bet draw once, 4 of them now.
I mean, we call them a coin flip.
Probably will.
They're all coin flips. Yeah, I think they will.
All right, in those stats, did you mention that about the road winning streak for Florida?
Yeah. Yep.
How many games did you say it's at? 9 or 10?
It's at 8 right now.
8.
LA got the record with 10. So yeah.
Okay. All right,
they look like they're doing something special.
They're overtime with 8 or whatever it was, overtime victories. It's like the 93 Montreal Canadiens, or maybe, it was 93.
Yeah,
I think they had 10 overtime wins on their amazing run.
Shit.
Yeah,
holy
insane.
Shit.
Oof. Good stuff, boys.
That was a good year for me as a Habs fan as a kid.
Yep. 11-year-old Army just wearing his Habs undies.
The only kid in town. All right, before we go any further, I want to talk to you guys about Omega Accounting Solutions. Attention small business owners with 5 to 500 employees. You are a responsible business owner who continued to pay taxes and employ staff during the pandemic. Omega Accounting Solutions is a small business champion helping you and your business get back the money you deserve through the CARES Act. Recover the payroll taxes you overpaid as a refund of up to $26,000 per employee, even if you got the PPP loan. Learn if you are a good candidate in less than 10 minutes with a free consultation. Omega was recently named the #1 best ERC company for getting your ERC funds by Merchant Maverick. That's a small business comparison and review site. There's still time to find out if you qualify and file your claim. Again, That's up to $26,000 per employee. Call 866-606-DAVE, DAVE, or visit omegataxcredits.com/Barstool Sports now.
All right, boys, we're going to head over to the Western Conference. But first, we still haven't mentioned our guest yet. You guys interviewed Rick Vaive, Toronto Maple Leafs legend, a few weeks back. I missed that one, but can't wait to get that to you guys. How was it, Biz? He's a pretty interesting character, I understand, huh?
Oh, he's an interesting cat. Old school. We love getting the old school guys on. He's got some unbelievable stories, and we're looking forward to you guys hearing it. So nice follow-up to Charles.
Absolutely. Coming to you shortly. So anyways, Vegas up 2-0, man, with just a few minutes left in the third period on Sunday. It looked like Dallas, not quite smooth sailing, but they were up the whole game. 2 minutes left. Vegas ties it up before they can even pull the goalie. Then they win it like minute and 20 into overtime. Stunning fucking result for Dallas, man. They look like they were going to go home tied up. What's your take on the series? Does Vegas have it by the balls right now? Is Dallas going to do something different, or they just get some bad bounces here?
They don't have it by the balls the way the Panthers do, considering they're going home, right? Dallas could go home and hold serve, and we're talking completely different, a different series in 4 days. But what a gut-wrenching loss for the Stars today, right? They weren't just leading with 2 minutes to go. They had dominated the game. I think at one point in the third period, maybe it was the second, like Vegas had 12 shots. It was perfect hockey by Dallas. They did a great job, and Ryan Suter had 2 assists throughout the game, but that last goal, the tying goal, excuse me, not the last one, he kind of just like lazily a little throws it around the wall, gets picked off. Then the guy passes. Eichel makes a sick pass, kind of right through Suter. His stick's in the wrong spot. Marchessault buries it. And from playing this perfect road game to all of a sudden blowing the lead and being tied up with 2 minutes, it's like, wow, Vegas might end up pulling this off. They hung in there. They didn't go down 3-1. And now it's going to be hard for Dallas, right? Because Vegas, the same way Florida's doing it, they're reckless in terms of like how they forecheck. They got the big, strong D as well, and they get 2 wins on the road. At home, and their confidence has to be at the highest level possible. They bullied Edmonton around. Now they get these 2 wins, and they're getting contributions from everywhere. The whole lineup. I mean, Kolesar took that stupid penalty against Edmonton. He's looked great in the first 2 games.
He's awesome.
That guy, I mean,
love that guy.
He's a beast. I texted the group chat. He's fucking unbelievable fourth liner. He flies out there. He's physical. He helps make plays in the offensive zone where they're able to keep plays alive. He's a stud.
Yeah, so 14 different goal scorers. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, the depth on their team. Cassidy was a good coach for this team. I mean, obviously at this point, he holds them all accountable, right? Maybe the locker room was getting a little out of control. I don't know. I'm not there, but this guy's like pretty strict in terms of how you're going to do things. They have depth, and they've just kind of figured out a way to play. And I mean, they're on their 4th goal. We've talked about that a bunch. But Aiden Hill, he looks so dialed in. It's all at this time of year. It's just the goaltending, and I don't think you could blame Ottinger at all. But this team is so deep, and then when you get goaltending like that, and you get the first 2 games, it's the same thing. So who's going to beat Vegas 4 out of 5? Mm-hmm. Right? It's just you create such a bubble for yourself, and like, all right, well, we can even lose the first one if we can just split here. We're going home 3-1. That's probably what'll happen. I'm guessing. I don't know if Dallas gets game. I'm going to hammer Dallas game 3 again.
Let me ask you, how tough mentally is it for like a team when they lose a game like that, they go down 2-0 instead of 1-1? Like, is it
the worst?
How can you just move along quickly, or does it just linger?
Definitely a kick in the dick because of how well they played for 58 minutes. But you're also thinking, all right, we just own them for the most part, and we're going home. This series is far from over. And I hate bringing up the AHL. It's not the Stanley Cup playoffs, but Binghamton had one of the best teams you've ever seen in the AHL, the lockout year. Jason Spezza, Ray Emery, God rest his soul, Anton Volchenkov, Chris Neal, Chris Kelly. Like, it was a stud.
Anton Vermette.
Brian Pothier, remember that team? It was a stud team. They broke all the records. I think Spezza had Spezza, did I even say him? I think he had 100 points. Army and myself and Merle's Wilkes-Barre team, we got them in the first round, and we went into their barn, and they waxed us. They whacked us 2 in a row. And we came home. We won both. We won game 5 in the row. We won game 6 at home. So
that's when I scored that double OT goal, or was it double?
That was game
double
3,
OT?
I think, too. We were down 3-0 if we lost that game.
Yeah.
And I just bring it up because we got thumped those 2 games on the road. And we were able to come back after those home games. And Dallas, if you're talking about confidence, at least they're saying, not only are we going home, but we had them. That was our fucking game. One mistake, and then they get a pretty lucky bounce in OT. Goes right to Chandler Stevenson. So I don't think by any means they think this series is over. I'm just looking long term. You got to win 4 out of 5, and against Vegas right now, that seems like a pretty tough task.
And on Bidsy, I'll say this. I'll ask you this. On top of it, Robertson, who we were talking about coming off the last, he's got goals in back-to-back games now, and they still lose. So to RA's point, you're going, oh fuck, we got our guy going. And we're playing pretty good hockey, and we have Ottinger, and we have all these guys, and fucking these guys buried us. Like what, a minute and 12 seconds into the one OT, and then a minute and 34 seconds into the next OT. Like just took care of business. How's she going? Get out of here. That changes a little bit. I think that changes the feeling just a little bit, where it might defeat you just a little bit more.
I just look to this Vegas team and that group of guys that are still there from that 2017, 2018 team who fell short against Washington, and how much they've came through in the clutch. Like Marchessault right now, he like Wild Bill, especially in that first game. Theodore had a great apple on the winner in the overtime in game 2. Riley Smith, who was a little bit snake bitten in the beginning of playoffs. They got White Cloud, McNabb, Carrier still there, along with all these new guys they've added. And you like those guys collectively have done an incredible job, and probably a big reason why they won that last round and then now are up 2-0 in this one. But then you mentioned Bruce Cassidy, Whit. I feel like he's had such an impact on Eichel, because not only is he buzzing offensively, like he looks to be a well-rounded player right now too. Like he's making plays in the defensive zone as well. And I just think that from an overall 200-foot game perspective, he is that superstar that everybody expected him to be when he ended up moving over to Vegas. So it's just fun to watch. I think that they're the team to beat. They are vicious 5-on-5 for the reasons that we've mentioned of their third and fourth line. But Chandler Stevenson is a fucking third line center of this team. He's got 7 tucks in playoffs right now. He flies up and down the ice. Their speed is just incredible. And normally you go down the lineup and all of a sudden things start maybe slowing down a little bit and it just gets a little bit boring, where every line that hops over the boards, you look at them of a threat to put the puck in the back of the net. And as far as Dallas is concerned, no, I don't count them out, but just right now for me, Vegas is the team to beat overall. They're just 6 defense deep. Aiden Hill's playing great. I think that the fact that they have those shot blockers and the guys who are so well-rounded defensively is helping out in front of him, where he doesn't have to be the Ottinger. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have as far as, you guys are watching the games. I know, Whit, that you said they got dominated for about 2.5 periods there. They had 13 shots through 3 quarters of the game, but they could turn it on when they want, and they are just looking too good right now for Dallas.
So Stevenson gets the winner today.
Yes.
In the winner game 1, he's the one who he carried it into the offensive zone. He went behind the net. He threw it in front. It ends up over to Howden, who did a great job in kind of just terms of throwing it to the crease from behind the net. It ends up in the net. But yeah, if Stevenson, he's playing third line center, the way he's skates,
unreal. It's
just the whole team. They never stop coming. Stone's been on the ice for both OT winners. It's a well-rounded, deep team. If it is them in Florida, which right now, I'm assuming Vegas has enormous odds they both move on. That is going to be a battle, and we might die. Vegas to Lickerdale, I can't do that.
Merles is traiing 2-a-days right now to get his liver ready.
Merle said he's off the sauce to doing 2-a-days to get ready for that.
I want to say Vegas has given up the first goal 6 or 7 times when they've came back and had a win so far in this postseason. I don't know if you have that number written down, but usually first goal is a good sign that you're going to go win the game, but it doesn't seem to faze them when they give it up first.
After today, Vegas now has 8 comeback wins in the playoffs. Of course, you're down 1-0 in the first. It's still a comeback win, 8 of them. And meanwhile, Dallas has yet to have a comeback win in the playoffs. The third series in a row that Dallas dropped the opener in OT as well. Also, what else they got here? How about this Bruce Cassidy quote? Someone brought up, while Bill Collison became a father, he's been playing great. Bruce Cassidy says, it's worked well for us. I think that's 4 babies for us. So we might have to call the guys up next August to get to work. Call it a summer project.
That's unbelievable.
Just a dude ranch out there.
Unreal. Go to the playoffs. But and also too, Biz, overtime records. Dallas now 0-4, Vegas 3-0 now. It's just, as good as Dallas has been, they're falling behind, and you can't come back every game, man. I think we're seeing that right now.
It's hard, man. It takes a lot out of you. And I know that you say, like, you go back to the regular season. I think the NHL set the record for most 2 and 3 goal comebacks at least halfway through the year, where you're saying no lead was safe. But when you're playing against teams this good, it is, man. You gotta find that next gear just to get yourself back in the hockey game. It plays a factor. And then you just kind of alluded to the Dallas side of it, where they haven't won a game where they've given up the first goal.
They don't have a comeback win.
They haven't had a comeback win. So
okay.
I guess So, that would fall into the same category, I guess.
There you go. So it can affect you, man, and it has for Dallas.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I think, what was it today, or in the game 2, Ray Ferraro during the broadcast was like, up until when Marchessault scored that goal, I think he had like 0 shots on goal. Like his stat line, he read off his stat line like prior to scoring that goal, and he's like, once this guy gets going, he gets going. Like he all right, you would know this, bet. He's been an analytical darling since where was he, in Tampa when he started?
Didn't score in the first round, Army.
Yeah, he was invisible in the first round.
Yeah. Well, I know. Yeah. And these guys are the original guys, but it's so funny just in this game alone when Ray was reading his stat line, and I know they weren't very good, but it's just like, boom, he scores. But he's like a guy that he's a guy that drives his team too, man. He's like another Stone almost with the way he goes. So it's important to have him going.
Did you guys see Stone jump on Miller after they scored the OT winner and yell in his face?
He slammed him and then grabbed the puck with his big hands. He just
and Barbashev kind of ran into Suter after they tied it up too. They're just bullies.
Yeah, he was barking at him too. Barbashev's a fucking player. He made that play down to Eichel on that wall. Yeah. One other intangible we didn't mention was the Carolina fan behind the bench doing the woof during the third intermission of overtime there.
Hey, so I heard Game Notes Daily talking about this. Was there actually a clip of him doing a quick bump?
Oh yeah, he waved the bag to get all of it broken up. And then did a little,
see, I don't know if it was a zin or like a smelling salt. I couldn't tell. I mean,
no. That was a mini bag of Coke. Not that I know from experience or anything.
Well, hey, speaking of fans at the game and that, Biz, you might have to wear sound canceling headphones for this series going into Dallas. You chirp the bang guy.
No, that was Witt. I actually follow the banger. His name's Nick.
I didn't know he was like a person that
he's a guy.
He's best friends with Gretzky. He lives at Gaza in the summer and they hang out and golf together.
Yeah, the bang guy.
I had no idea that he was a known guy. I guess
he's a real guy.
Dallas games.
Hey,
that's his move.
Hey, he brings a pro to every single game with his season tickets on the glass. You guys think I'm kidding too? His name's Nick Marach, and this is his Twitter bio. I like to bang on the glass, but I hold a sign for restraint. Bang, and then it goes in quotes. You're the most hated man in hockey. Paul Bissonnette to me, because a few years back I was with you, Wick, because I used to travel with the Coyotes as the radio guy, and also they were a division rival with us. He's been there forever, having seasons right behind the opposing goalie's net, and he just wears a white suit every game and just continually bangs. But I don't think they've ever had a mic set up there like you talked about during the ESPN broadcast where they got this series. So games 3 and 4 in Dallas, you're going to be hearing Nick go to town on that glass.
They might have to get rid of that mic.
No, they're
Nick
not.
Goes to town. He loves banging on that glass.
He bangs on the glass, then he bangs on his pro.
She bangs. She bangs.
William Hung.
William
That was fucking hilarious.
Hey, should we get him on the pod?
William
I don't know, man. He'll probably just bang on his microphone the whole time.
No, we should get him on game notes.
Tell me your name.
Get him on.
We should get him on game notes.
We should get you guys in touch.
I had tweet beef with the Dallas Bang guy years ago because I was bitching about him during the game.
Was it you that shared it on the thing? That's how I saw who he was because Witt brought him up, and then it turns out he's a real guy. I didn't know he was a real guy either.
Yeah, I didn't know he was a real human.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is what he does. That's his thing.
I'm going to message him right now. You want
Also be like, you got any horses in the Belmont?
You want to go on game notes this week?
Oh, shit.
You'll be like, what the fuck is game notes?
He follows me. No big deal.
All right, before we go any further, here is our word from our friends at Labatt Blue. You know, lots of things are better together. Hockey, food, golf, going to the movies. But if you really want to take things to the next level, drink some Labatt Blue Lights with your friends and live life to the power of we. Take a page out of the Labatt Blue Light book and enjoy your beers together so you can live life to the power of we. Like I just said, G, we love it in the playoffs, right? Come on.
All right, we love it in the playoffs, and we especially love it because I've always said Labatt is such a refreshing beer. It's so great in the summer. It's so great by the water. It's so great by the pool. Well, right now, the Stanley Cup playoffs are looking like we could be in Fort Lauderdale and Las Vegas. I don't want to jinx anything, but I'll tell you right now, all right, drinking a couple Labatt Blue Lights on the beach in Fort Lauderdale or even at a nice little pool party in Vegas, there is nothing better in the entire world. Labatt Blue, it is so refreshing. It is the drink of the summer.
Absolutely. I'm going to my favorite pizza place in East Boston here in the city, and they have Labatt there. I can't wait to have a couple on my birthday this week. So listen, you can find Labatt near you. Go to Labatt.com. Check it out. Enjoy a fine Labatt today. Biz, one final question. Do you think Dallas has to make an adjustment or do something different, or is just they're kind of getting some shitty bounces right now? You think they're getting like thoroughly outplayed, or just stick with the program right now for Dallas?
No, I mean, they got the goaltending in game 2 from Ottinger, and I mean, we saw his numbers when following a loss, which I was shocked when they scored that goal with 2:22 left to make it 2-2. Kind of a little fun fact for everybody out there. No, man, I just a little bit more execution from their top guys and to find the back of the net. You know, Pavelski, he's sniffing on the doorstep. He's always there. They showed a clip of him working on the tips as usual in the pregame skate. So, no, man, they're fine. They do a good job as far as a defensive unit. I don't know how many people Dallas fans may be complaining about the 5-on-3 where you don't see that too often.
No.
So that first goal to open up the game for Vegas is, you know, there was a delayed penalty called, and then they ended up calling another one. So both the D-pairing of Hanley
and Harley.
Hanley and Harley, like a goddamn movie, end up in the penalty box together where it's pretty much a gimme goal with Stone on his knees. So, no, I think that they're right there. And I think that this series, as Whit mentioned, especially going back home, could turn on a dime. I view them more in this series because they still have everybody healthy, way more ahead of Carolina right now as far as coming back.
Yeah, if I had kids and I had a college fund for those kids, I would bet that college fund on Dallas next game.
Let me ask you this. Is it crazy that Miro Heiskanen has 1 goal? Like of all the D that we've sung praises to this entire playoffs.
Yeah, but he's probably been nasty.
He's so nasty, he's so good. But it's like, you know, you look at some of these other teams and some of these other guys that are just, you know, they got like, what's Montour have? 6 goals?
Yeah.
It's like you look at some of these other teams that have, you know, I think Pesci has more goals than him. So it's like,
it is surprising.
It's just surprising to me that he's like this guy that we've, you know, I think he's elite, but it's just like, I'm like, well, you got 1 goal.
Been a Norris candidate.
9 assists, 10 points in 15 games. Playing, I mean, he had 11 this year, so it wasn't even like he had 62 assists, but he carries the puck up the ice. He just does little stick fakes. He's so fast, even when he's gliding. It's crazy.
And it's crazy, those guys, and this is what I hate about them, and I think all you guys do too. It looks so easy, like they're not even trying. Right. That's what pisses me off.
I go, you want to go on game notes this week? He goes, haha, game notes, ? I say, it's Chiclets Daily Show. He goes, oh, sure. I said, with Army, Merles, and Grinnell. So you guys have a guest. He's going to answer me back here, and I'm going to put you guys in touch, and hopefully he can give you guys some winners.
Oh, I thought he was being a diva there.
We get him on Tuesday. We got to do Tuesday if he's available. If he's not, if he's not like out there patrolling for his next guest to the game.
He's just hanging out in like hotel lobby.
I think he uses the apps for that one. He's on Raya.
Paying a nickel for the ticket and who knows for whatever else afterwards. But boys, we send it over to Rick Vaive or what?
Yep.
Without further ado, let's send it over to Rick Vaive.
This interview is brought to you by the Chevy EV. You guys know I've talked about it. We've been a part of the Chevy EV family, and we got big news. The first ever all-electric Silverado is officially Barstool's most valuable truck. This beast is ripping around the streets. It's an absolute monster to be driving around in. And when we got the chance to actually step in and see these and experience it, it was a game changer. It's available 400-mile range, GM estimated on a full charge. Don't worry about you running out of the charge. Over 10 feet of length in the bed with the multi-flex tailgate combined with the multi-flex midgate. A large, enormous 17-inch diagonal display screen just makes the driving a little bit more enjoyable when you got the screen like that in front of you. It could tow up to 10,000 pounds of max towing, 0 to 60 in under 4.5 seconds with the WOW mode. There's no weakness in the Chevy EV. It's not like because it's electric, it still doesn't get going quick. And there's up to an impressive 785 foot-pounds of torque. So head on over to Chevy.com to learn more. Chevy.com right now to see the EV family. Well, everything's a little different here. RA took his option today, so I'm the one doing the intro, and we have a very special guest. Former Maple Leaf legend, the first man to ever score 50 goals in that uniform, Rick Vaive. 3-time 50-goal scorer with the Maple Leafs, captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, actually had the record of goals in one season with 54 until Austin Matthews broke it last year. He went on to coach a championship team in the East Coast Hockey League, coached in the OHL. Right now, he's sitting in Niagara where it's 77 degrees, I think he said. So thank you so much for joining Spittin Chiclets. Rick, what's up?
What an intro. Woo-woo.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah.
I know. I appreciate that. I practiced it a couple times.
And who would have thought a kid from Arizona would have broke my record?
I know, huh? That shows what's happening with hockey. I thought you were going to say who would have thought a kid from Arizona like Biz could have even played in the NHL, but I guess he's not even from there, so I don't know what.
I didn't know where he was going off the hop with that one either, Whit. But Austin Matthews was born there and raised there. Rick, what'd you make of when he broke your record? Were you in attendance? Did you get to go down to the locker room afterward?
No, I wasn't. He broke it in Dallas, actually, on a Thursday. And I met with them Saturday morning before their pregame skate. They were playing Montreal at home. And we had a great conversation, and I congratulated him and everything. And then I said to him, well, you may as well get 65 because you're the only guy that's going to break that on this seat. And he got a good chuckle out of that. But no, it was great. And then on the Monday, they invited me down to the practice rink, went into the video room. Sheldon Keefe went over everything he wanted the players to know and everything. And then he goes, okay, we got a special guest here. Let's play the video. So they showed about 15 of my goals in a fight and said 54 goals and 200 and whatever penalty minutes. And I heard a couple of guys behind me go, oh, shit. And I'm talking to them after, and I go, guys, you don't realize how the game was played when I played in the 80s and late 70s. I said, 3/4 of our team had over 200 penalty minutes. And they thought that was pretty crazy, but that's just the way the game was.
I saw a pretty cool video on your career and life a little bit on YouTube, and they were talking about, we'll get into how you were in the WHA before it folded. You had a bunch of young guys in your team. I guess that year, Dave Semenko went at you and kind of gave you a little bit of a beating, and then you caught a 51-year-old Gordie Howe elbow to the face as well. So it was a little different.
Yes, it was. I mean, I was 19. Michel Goulet was 18, and the rest of us were 19. Hartsburg, Ramage, Keith Crowder. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the rest of the guys. But yeah, we're playing Hartford, and I played center all the way up till junior. So John Brophy, our coach, if there was an face-off in our zone on the right side, he would have me taken. So I won the draw. Defenseman shot it off the glass. I beat the guy down the ice for the icing. I came around the net, turned backwards to shoot it in the empty net. Next thing I knew, I was trying to get up off the ice and fell down 3 times, then started crawling to the bench. I had no idea what happened until the next day. I looked at the video, and Gordie, when he went by me, just stuck the elbow up, hit me right here.
Did you ever get a chance to ask him about it and why he suckered you? Like, did you guys play against each other again, and were you able to get him back? If so,
no. Well, I don't think I was going to try and get Gordy back. That's for damn sure.
That's playing with fire.
Yeah, I mean that might be the wrong thing to do to a guy like Gordy Howe, I would think, especially he's in his 50s, right, when he's playing against us, and it was. But the other one was Semenko, and I mean, that was, we played in Edmonton one night. The next night we were in Winnipeg. Then 4 nights later, we were back in Edmonton. And I remember Glenn Sather was chirping at me when I would face off by their bench and just kept going. And I just turned around. I said, will you shut up? He goes, I'm going to send Semenko after you. And I said, whatever. So I'm playing against Semenko, and I'm back checking on him, and the play goes offside. We both turn, and he just suckers me. And then he grabs me by the back of the sweater, hits me a couple more times. I'm already out. My gloves fall off, and we get 5 minutes each for fighting. And so anyway, I didn't play the next night. I had about 6 feet of cotton batting up both nostrils. And then we came back, and I played the next game. So it started all over again, and he was yapping and yapping. And I said, hey, if you don't have equipment on and come out here to do anything about it, shut your mouth. And I'm going to send me after you. And I said, go ahead. He already knocked me out once. What's one more time? So I'm against the boards. I got the puck, and I see him coming. He's coming pretty hard. I just got out of the way. He hit the boards, and he went down. He didn't wear a helmet. Thinking in my head, what should I do? So I give him a little tap on the head, open up a little tiny little cut, and I leaned down and I said, if you ever do that to me again, I'll cut your head off.
Okay.
So I came away, and I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm dead. He never came near me the rest of my career.
Oh shit.
That is unbelievable.
Well, it is kind of true what you said. Like, I mean, why do you think Slats was out to get you so bad? I mean, you were a young gun, real good player. Was there anything else to it?
No, I think it was just that I scored, I think, against Edmonton every time we played. I think he was just trying to get under my skin and get me off my game, I guess, or, I don't know. But he loved the shirt. He loved the shirt.
You were born in Ottawa, and I saw that you played junior in Quebec. I know now it's known as a very soft league and not a lot of fighting. So was that the case back then? And if so, like, how hard was that for you to adjust to then getting to pro, where, as you said, to earn your goals in professional hockey back then, you almost had to be a gladiator?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And junior back then was pretty much the same. I remember my first fight, Mario Marois, and I was 17 years old. And he was a 19-year-old. Nobody told me he was a lefty. So we brought the gloves. He hit me about 6 times before I knew what to do.
There were no game notes back then, so you couldn't check them.
But you think someone on the team would have told me, like, hey, this guy's a lefty if he ever, because he was a defenseman, I was a forward, and they're, we're in the corners together and everything, but nobody told me. And so anyway, that was okay, and but it was the same as the way the game was played. That was in the mid-'70s pretty much, and hockey was the same way. You had to battle your way to get goals, like you said, and you get hooked all the way down the ice. And I remember one time we were playing the Islanders, and a couple of the defensemen were grabbing me by the sweater in the corner, and I couldn't get away, and I'm thinking to myself, how the hell can they do that with a hockey glove on? Well, one face-off, I look, and I see one of the defensemen, and he's got his hand up. Well, he's got the whole palm cut out of his glove. All he had was the thing you put his fingers in at the end, so he could take it out and grab the sweater. So I said, well, that's pretty smart.
I think Marchand actually plays with like a big hole in his glove too, or at least he did last year at one point, but wouldn't be surprised if he had a couple of those tricks himself, I guess, the way he plays.
Oh, yeah.
But I wanted to ask, the thing I saw said you still had another year of junior left, but that's when the Birmingham Bulls went out and got you and a few other guys you just mentioned to play in the WHA when you could have still played junior. And did you guys all get 50 grand for the season? Is that how that went?
Yeah, it was 20 to sign and 30 salary. The funny part about that was Sherbrooke, where I played junior, they went all the way up to 75,000 under the table if I stayed. I said, look, I said, it's not about the money. I said, it's about me playing against men and getting better and trying to get into the National Hockey League, and be a good player. I wasn't going to stay for the money. It was all about trying to get better, and that's exactly what I ended up doing.
Well, that kind of goes into what I wanted to ask. And so at the time, you didn't know that WHA was going to fold or anything, but so it wasn't like you were signing up to play there forever. Your goal was still the NHL, and this was just the best way for you to get there, kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, it was just a one-year contract, but Bassett, our owner, halfway through the season, he signed all of us to four-year deals, and he signed me for $200 a year for 4 years. And when the merger went through, they were supposed to honor all existing contracts, but they didn't. So we went to court, and I ended up getting I think it was $75,000 payout after going to court, and then ended up in Vancouver.
That NHL draft was the deepest draft maybe of all time. Some people say, I know 2003 was crazy, but did you have any idea you were going to go 5th overall? Did you have any city that you wanted to go to? And I think one of your teammates at Birmingham was the first overall pick, Ramage, right?
Yeah, he went to Colorado. I thought I was going to Washington because they were the only team that talked to me. There wasn't a draft, it was a phone draft, and it was in August that year because of the merger. But they had called me and talked to me. So I thought for sure I was going to go to Washington, and I'm waiting by the phone, and I get the phone call that I went to Vancouver, and they took a guy named Mike Gardner. So I guess it wasn't a bad pick for them.
Yeah, decent.
That worked out all right, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Rick, Merle's here. I got the call up from the Mindsies for this interview, and my biggest question has got to be about your time with the Maple Leafs as we move on to that and being captain. What was that like being there through all that, like the fringe benefits of free meals? Are you still getting any of those? What was that like being the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs?
I mean, it was pretty cool, actually. I mean, it was kind of a rough time when they brought Punch Imlach back, and Daryl and him didn't see eye to eye. They had a lot of problems, and then finally Daryl ended up asking for a trade because he was the only guy in the league, I think, that had a no trade contract, and he went to Philly. And then the funniest part was usually the GM and the coach or whatever, they call you into the office and say, would you like to be our captain? Well, that's not how it happened. Harold Ballard just came up to me and he said, you're our captain. And at that point, I had already been traded once, and I figured if I said no to this guy, he's probably going to trade me for sure. And sure enough, he probably would have. So I just said, oh, okay. I wasn't ready. I was 22 years old, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
I mean, and we had an older team at that point, and then we got a little bit younger 3 years down the road, and it got a lot easier. But I had Borja Salming beside me for 7 years, and he backed me up every time I said anything. So that was probably the best thing that could have happened.
That's incredible. I heard that Harold Ballard, was he an asshole?
I've never heard a good word about him.
I wouldn't say he was an asshole. He didn't treat us like really bad, but he was really cheap. I mean, I bet you everybody on our team were making probably 30 to 40% less than what guys on other teams that were doing what we did were making. And that was because Harold was a cheap son of a bitch.
Hey, what's the story about him wanting his dog in the team photo? Wasn't there a story where he insisted, he's like, I want my dog in this team photo? The players weren't happy, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, and when I was named captain, I'm right there beside him, and the goddamn dog is in front of me. So the funniest one was the first year I was captain, and it took a while to get set up or something. I can't remember what exactly happened. And TC Puck was the dog's name. And when it was all over, we all got up, and the dog tried to get up, and he yelped because his balls were frozen to the ice. So Harold started feeling for this guy, Tommy, that worked for him. They called him Tommy the dog walker because he walked TC Puck all the time. And he came out, had to scrape his balls off the ice. And so from that time on, they put a mat there for him so his balls wouldn't freeze in the ice.
They put a doggy door on the boards for him?
No, they didn't do that.
Oh, no. Okay. Sorry.
He was around all the time. And, but Harold wasn't an asshole or anything. In fact, sometimes he was funny. But some of the comments he made when he was being interviewed, I mean, if that was today, the league would take the team away from.
Wait, so when you got traded there, because Tiger Williams went back to Vancouver, and then I saw it said they were getting rid of the friends of Darryl Sittler. They had gotten rid of Lanny McDonald. So was Harold just furious at him for wanting the trade, or was there just what had happened to really kind of crush that relationship? I mean, Darryl Sittler's an all-time Maple Leaf legend.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was a hell of a player even then after about 8 years in the league. But what happened was when Punch came in, they had that showdown. And they used to film it in the summer, and then they would show clips of it between periods. So him and Palmetier were supposed to be in it. And he told him he didn't want them to quit it because the year before that, somebody got hurt and missed the first 2 months of the season. And they just went ahead and did it anyway. So that really pissed Punch off. And he knew he couldn't trade Darryl because he had no trade. So he started trading all his buddies. Lanny first to Colorado, and then Tiger to Vancouver, which was okay with me because I loved playing in Toronto.
Yeah.
I heard Darryl Sittler was a pretty big prankster. Was he a big prankster in the locker room to keep things light? I mean, you guys had to occupy yourself somehow, no phones or anything. You guys did it the right way.
I think it was my shoes at one time got nailed to the floor.
That happened
that happened to Whit, too.
But the best one, and I'm not sure if it was Darryl. I think it was someone else because it was after Darryl was gone. Put the baby powder in the hairdryer. And Harold would come down before practice and get his legs massaged by our trainer because he had diabetes and he had circulation problems. But this particular day, he decided he came down later. We're coming off the ice and he's coming out of the shower. And we're all going, oh shit. Hopefully he doesn't grab that hairdryer. Sure enough, he grabs it. He comes out, he's got a towel around him, he's got baby powder all over him, and he's laughing his ass off. And he's going, who did that? That was unbelievable. Meanwhile, we're all shitting our pants because we're figuring, oh, God.
Yeah, you're going from a 30% pay cut to a 50% pay cut. That's what you guys are thinking.
Yeah, oh, God, yeah.
Take our younger fans who are listening through, what was training camp like for you guys back then? What was the fitness testing? What was what were your practice days like?
Well, we didn't have any fitness testing. We had this old Army guy, and I can't remember his name for the life of me, but big guy. He had the short haircut and everything, and great big guy. And he would put us up in the corridor upstairs above the first level and do exercises. He had these blocks that you did push-ups on and all that kind of crap. But we went twice a day. We'd go from probably 10 or 9 until 10:30 in the morning, and then back on the ice again at 2 o'clock till about 3:30. And it was grueling. Boy, I'll tell you, I remember the one year we had our camp in Belleville, and it was Olympic size, and we're doing laps. And you got to do 4 laps one way, then there was groups in all 4 corners, and you went all the way up to 8 laps. And Christ almighty, I'll tell you, it was tough, boy, I'll tell you. And Dan Malone, he was our coach, and he took the water off the bench. He wouldn't allow any water on the bench. So you go over to the bench looking for something to drink, and there was nothing there. It was the most grueling training camp I had in my entire career.
Back then, like the guys, they loved having a couple beers after practice and after games. The guys would go out in training camp. Was it the same way that night? Have some dinner, a couple pops, or would you at least take it easy, all you guys, during camp?
No, not really. It's pretty much the same. I mean, after the second session, we'll go out for lunch and have a few pops and then go home and rest up and get ready for the next day because it was coming again. And back then, too, I think we had like 80-some guys at camp. And so there was 4 teams. And in the morning, you scrimmage. And there was probably 6 fights every scrimmage. It was just like crazy the way training camps were back then.
Rick, sometimes we start at the beginning. Like, what made you fall in love with hockey?
I guess it was in Ottawa, and we lived in a 4-plex. And somehow my dad got the other people in the 4-plex to agree to build a big rink, the whole yard of everybody's yard. So we had a nice rink with lights and everything. We were out there nonstop, like every day, get home from school, right on the ice. Weekends, we were out there all day. And I think that just kind of made me want to play. And I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I didn't think it was going to be as tough as it was as I went further on in my career, but it was a lot of fun and I enjoyed it. So I just kept it up. And then we moved out east to Amherst, Nova Scotia. I was 9 and we're doing a tag day for minor hockey. So you stand on the corner with a can and somebody puts money in, you give them a tag and all that. And the guy says, one of the kids says to me, "Are you going to try out for the Pee Wee team, the travel team?" I said, "Well, I'm only 9 years old. Pee Wee's 11, 12. And he goes, "Yeah, but you can try out." So I asked my dad, he goes, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So I tried out and I made the team at 9 years old. So that's kind of where it all really got started, when I was 9 years old, making that team, played in the Quebec Pee Wee tournament 2 years there. And then that was it.
Here we go.
Yeah,
now,
I wanted to
my
ask,
God.
Yeah,
We got
I
the
had
Pee
to
Wee
ask about the
tournament.
Quebec Pee Wee tournament, what your experience is. And I don't know if you know, but Whit won the whole thing his year. So
I've never told anyone.
I
told these guys once.
We got beat out both years in our first game in overtime. But I remember the one time we were in, we got billeted.
Yeah.
And I remember I think it was when I was 10. And where I was billeted, they had a daughter that was like about 16 or 17.
Here we go.
Beautiful.
Be careful, Howard.
But hey, I was 10 years old. So what was I going to do?
Remember to talk about on Chiclets 53 years later?
Yeah.
Like back then, was it selling out like that with all the people waiting for autographs on your way out and as big as it is today?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was huge. I mean, they didn't have all those European teams back then. It was mostly US and Canadian. There was the odd team from Europe, but now, I mean, God, there's teams from all over the world going there now, and it's bigger and better than it ever was.
So you developed all your skills on the pond at your 4-plex. Who did you grow up rooting for? Would you watch the Hockey Night in Canada broadcast? Were you very dialed into everything going on hockey related?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, unfortunately, my father was from Gatineau, so he was a big Habs fan, and he made my mother a Habs fan. The funny thing was, I didn't leave there until I was 9 years old. My sister's a year older. We both could have been bilingual if we had went to English school, French at home, or vice versa. And it never happened, but he taught my mother how to speak French. And it took me, I think I realized it about 15 years ago, why he did that. And that was because when they didn't want us to know what they were talking about, they spoke French. So we didn't know what the hell they were saying. So all the secrets were kept.
Why did you guys move from Ottawa to Nova Scotia?
My father worked for Dominion Bridge, and they were on a project, and they were bringing a beam across with a crane, hit him in the head, knocked him out, and he fell 40 feet. So he was in the hospital for about a year and a half. And I don't know how many surgeries he had, but so he couldn't work on with Dominion Bridge anymore. So he started working for a company that made altimeters and different things for aircraft, and they were opening a factory in Amherst. They knew my mother was from Charlottetown, PEI, and they asked him if he'd go out and run it. And he said, yeah, sure, no problem. So off we go, and then 2 years later, the plant shuts down, and we moved to Charlottetown. You know, it's funny how many places I've been, and everybody says, well, was your dad in the military? And I go, no. I said, but we moved a lot, and I mean, personally, myself, I mean, you're in Ottawa, Amherst, Charlottetown, PEI, Sherbrooke, Birmingham, Alabama, Vancouver, Toronto, Chicago, Buffalo, Charleston, South Carolina, St. John, New Brunswick, and then Oakville, and now Niagara Falls. So I've moved a lot.
Jesus. So those years in Toronto, I mean, the 3 straight years, you played in 3 straight All-Star games, over 50 goals every season. But the team, you know, it was a struggle, right? Like, what do you think it was? Just not enough depth? I mean, I guess Harold being so cheap probably had something to do with it. But the biggest thing is being a young captain. It must have wore on you with the hockey crazy Toronto, and you guys couldn't get many wins, right?
It was difficult, and it was all because Harold wouldn't spend the money on a good general manager or a good coach. And they made a lot of bad decisions, both the GM and the coach. And that was the whole problem. Like bringing in 3 18-year-old defensemen in the same year.
Yeah.
Like, was the stupidest thing I ever saw. Like, they were 18, but they had the maturity and the bodies of 50-year-olds. And like Jimmy Benning and Boynstruck, even Gary Nyland, who physically was big and strong, but mentally was like a 15-year-old. And that was tough. That was tough going through that. I would imagine it was a lot tougher for them. And because of that, guys like Jimmy Benning had very short careers.
I did see, though, that you had 13 playoff games one year. So that means you got out of the first round. So you did better than what the Leafs are doing now anyway.
Oh, for fuck's sakes, Merles, you son of a bitch.
You know, it's funny. I went through a thing at the Hall of Fame there, and had a thing on the Leafs, and they went through every decade. And they said the 80s was the worst decade in Maple Leaf history. I'm going, wait a minute. I was there 7 years. We made the playoffs 4 times, went to the second round twice, and lost in game 7. So it couldn't have been all that bad.
That's better than now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they haven't won a round since 2004.
How do you feel about this year? Do you got some good mojo? You got some good juju?
Yeah, they're ready this year. They've gotten a lot more depth than they ever had. Like I talked on our podcast a lot about like Tampa Bay when they won their cups. Their first line and fourth lines were, you know, not that far apart, and the Leafs were like this. But now the Leafs are like this. They're like Tampa was when they won the cup. So I'm expecting some pretty big things, and I'm going to be there for game 1 in our alumni box. They picked my name. It's a lottery in the playoffs. So my name was drawn for the first game, and then I'll have to wait till everybody else gets their turn, and then I'll be able to go again in the Stanley Cup Finals, hopefully.
Oh, that's cool. They do it like that. So how many like tickets are there for the alumni box for each game? Like 16-ish or?
I want to say 20.
Oh, probably. That's awesome, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like it, and we're right on the 200 level, right behind the visitors' net. Great food, free booze.
Harold wouldn't have been down with this back in the day. He would have been giving you guys dog food.
Are you kidding me? He would have. There's not a chance that he would have done something like that.
Rick, who would you say the most impactful person on your career was, especially maybe when you got to pro to like learn the man's game?
You know what? Oddly enough, The guy that probably had the most impact on my career was John Brophy. John was from Antigonish, Nova Scotia. He was a tough guy himself when he played in the old Eastern League. And he called me in one day and he said, because the year before I got there, they had all the tough guys and they beat the shit out of everybody in the league. So when I got there, all us young guys, well, it was payback time for all the other teams in the WHA. So he called me in one day and he goes, listen, we only have Dave Hansen now. And, you know, so he can't fight everybody. So if you don't stick up for yourself, he said, they're going to try and run me out of the league. I said, okay. But I was kind of that way anyway. So I had 248 penalty minutes that year, got the shit kicked out of me multiple times, but had a pretty good year with, I think, 26 goals and 50-some points. And I was pretty happy about that. And then Brophy coached me again in Toronto many years later. So I'd have to say he was probably the first guy that helped me. And then Boria helped me a lot when we were in Toronto, when he sat beside me for 7 years. And I remember going to his place many times for parties. And he had those big fridges, the Sub-Zero ones. So we were over there at the one party, and I looked in the fridge. I was looking for a beer, nothing in there. I opened the other one. The whole fridge was just vodka. And I mean, it was full. And I said to Boria, I said, what's with all the goddamn vodka in the fridge? And he said, well, in Sweden, we like to drink it as shots, and we like it cold. I said, yeah, I know, but there's probably about 100,000 shots in that fridge. And he said, yeah, but it'll be gone at some point. I said, okay.
Yeah,
he was trying to get rid of the calories. No beer. He didn't want the boys slowing down on the ice.
That's what Bjorn is, such a legend in Sweden. I've heard so many stories about him. And that was one, even when he was done with his NHL career, went back and played in Sweden, he was teaching those guys not to drink beer, to drink vodka, just so they would stay in shape and stay fit and everything. He was such a legend. Do you have like one other story about him, like off the ice, that the people would love to hear?
Yeah, the best one I think I could probably talk about is Boria would go skiing up north in Horseshoe Valley or whatever with his family on a Saturday afternoon for like 3-4 hours. Then he would come back and play the damn game and be the best goddamn player on the ice. And you see the goggle marks around his eyes and everything. I knew. And Harold probably knew too, and so did GM and the coaches. But when he goes out and he's the best player on the ice, what the hell are you going to do about it? You can't say anything.
But when he came over from Sweden, like, he got challenged and tested, didn't he? And it turned out he was as tough as nails.
Yeah, he certainly was. He got challenged very, very quickly. And they called him Chicken Swede and all that kind of crap. But I got to tell you, the one thing about Boria, I think a lot of people look at him for the amount of points that he had as a defenseman. But I got to tell you, he was one of the best defensive defensemen in the National Hockey League when I was played with him. I mean, he would block shots. He had this little thing that he put his stick in and twist, like the
can opener.
Can opener.
Like, I would be going down with the puck and I'd be by him and I'd go, oh, good, I'm going to get a good shot here. And he would put the stick between my stick and my body and just give it a little twist. And then the puck would go off into the corner. And I'd get so pissed off at him that he'd just be giggling at me.
That's awesome. We were actually going to ask about Brof too, because we've had some guys on before, and they've told some wild stories about when he'd have his snap shows, because he was a pretty intense coach. Like, what were some ones that you can remember where you're like, this guy's a loose cannon, but he loved to win hockey games?
He did, but he was a bit of a loose cannon. I remember one time we had Paul Henderson, and Paul was a born-again Christian. But Brof would come in, and he was, this one particular night, he started at one end of the room, and he went all the way around it. He gave it to every single guy. Then he gets to Paul. And I've never seen Brof lost for words, ever, except for that. He kind of stopped, stared at Paul, and he didn't say anything for about 4 or 5 seconds. And Brof, when he got mad his voice would raise. And he goes, Henny, maybe you can talk to the big fella up there. He said, because these guys all need a bunch of help. They're no goddamn good.
Oh, my God.
How did you guys keep a straight face? Or were you guys laughing in your jerseys a little bit?
Well, you had to be careful because if he caught you laughing, he'd throw something at you.
Oh, shit.
And someone told me the story about, I think he was in Halifax in the minors, and he threw those big things you used to do your six with that had a point on it. The rasp. Torches? The rasp back then. He threw it at somebody, and it missed him, and it stuck in the garbage can. So if it had hit him, it would have done some serious damage. But the other one was Davey Gorman was a good player. Rick Aduno was my centerman, and Rick and Davey played junior together at St. Catharines. So Davey would always go down and then cut into the middle, but he had great speed, and Brof always told him, go wide, use your speed, go wide. So he called Rick in one day, and he said, Rick, what's going on with your buddy there? He keeps cutting into the goddamn middle, and I keep telling him to go wide. And Rick said, oh, I don't know. He said, well, you know what I'd like to do with him? I'd like to take a big hatchet and cut his head open down the middle and see what the fuck is going on in there. When Rick told me that, I couldn't believe it. It was like, oh God. But that was Brof. He was entertaining, and he wanted to win so badly. Like, I got to say, if he had to come into the NHL 15 years earlier, he probably would have had good success because he was more of a motivator than an X's and O's type guy.
Was that around the time when things started changing? Like, was there any video implementation, or was it more like just systems based, like very simple systems?
Well, I mean, back then, pretty much every team in the league was just, except for Edmonton, was dump and chase. And there really wasn't any, set game plans, maybe power play or penalty kill, but that was about it. We had VHS back then. We didn't have the stuff they have now. And I remember we played in Winnipeg one night. Dan Maloney was our coach. We lost, I think it was 10-1 or 10-0. We fly back the next day, but we don't land until about 1:30 in the afternoon. He goes, okay, everybody right to the right. We go to the right. We watch the whole goddamn game film, and he must have rewound it probably 50, 60 times. So then he goes, okay, put your gear on. We go out on the ice, and he skates our bags off for 2 hours. I got home, I think, about 8:30 that night. I think, I go, when the hell, what is this going to do? Like, is this going to make us better? I mean,
you probably got work the next game too.
Oh God, yeah, it was like, but that was just kind of how it was back then. And the funny thing about Harold and all that, but you know what? There was probably only 4 or 5 teams in the 21-team league back then that were run properly. And you could probably go with the Islanders, Edmonton, probably Quebec, Montreal, and that was pretty much it. Every other team had an owner that were very similar to Harold.
How would you summarize your entire time with the Leafs? I mean, we're going to obviously get to Chicago as you moved on, but I mean, how did that trade go down, and how would you summarize your entire career there?
I loved it. I loved Toronto. I loved the passion of the fans. I mean, yes, they could get, pretty bad on us if we're losing. But I loved it there, and I didn't want to get traded. I never asked for a trade. I know somebody wrote a book and said I left on bad terms, which was bullshit, because I never asked for a trade or anything. And but I remember when Dan Maloney, we were in Minnesota. It was when I lost the captaincy, and John Anderson was my roommate for I don't know how many years. They got traded to Quebec. So we're in Minnesota. We get in on a Thursday, and Quebec's in town. They're playing Minnesota. We're not playing until, I think it was Saturday afternoon, or Sunday afternoon. So I go out with John after the game. So Dan has practice at 7 o'clock in the morning the next day. So Greg Terrian is my roommate. He wakes me up. I didn't get out. I got home around 1 o'clock, but I had a fair bit to drink. And Greg woke me up. I sat up in the bed. He goes, "Are you good?" I said, "Yep." He left the room. I put my head on the pillow, and I missed practice.
Oh, no.
So Dan came over, and I thought it was a little harsh, to be honest with you, to take that away from me for just that. But I guess that was their thinking, and, there wasn't much I could do about it. It was done. You know what? The funny thing is, the next 4 years, I had 33 goals or more every year. And then we're at a golf tournament. Telemedia Sports owned the rights to the radio broadcast back then, and they always had a golf tournament in September, right before training camp, up at Horseshoe Valley. So Bill Waters was my agent. He was up there at the tournament, and we finished the tournament. I come in, he goes, "Rick, sorry, but," he said, "you just got traded to Chicago." That was 3 days before training camp. So I got to drive home from Horseshoe Valley, pack up the car, and leave the next morning to get to Chicago in time for training camp. I never had a bad time in Toronto. I loved it there, and we were starting to get better. Wendell was there. That was his third year, I think, by then, or second year. We brought in a couple other good players. We were getting a little bit better. But Dan Maloney was finally starting to get what he needed to do to be a better coach. But he wanted a 2-year contract, and Harold would only give him one, so he went to Winnipeg. And Dan was a funny guy, too, because I remember when we had an argument on the ice because he made our line skate because he blamed us for 2 losses in a row. And I got into an argument with him. So the next game, we're playing Philly at home, and he sits John Anderson, Billy Verlego, and myself on the bench for the first half of the first period. Then he starts playing John and Billy. Well, I'm sitting there. I sat the whole game on the bench. And I remember it like it was yesterday. The Gardies could get very quiet at times. And there was a guy about probably 6 rows behind me in the goals. And he yells down, he says, "Hey, Rick," he said, "you're not very busy. Can you get me a hot dog?" And I wanted to turn around so bad and say, "What do you want on it?" But Dan was behind me everywhere I went on the bench. And I thought, if I said anything, he's going to punch me in the face. And he probably would have.
I think Colby Armstrong played a whole game for Terrian where he didn't get one shift. Isn't that true, Merles? Do you remember that story?
I'm sure it has. We went all night with those stories.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't have one where you sat down the entire game.
I would have, but he was playing me on the power play only. I was playing forward 4th line and then playing on the power play. He didn't want to mess up. Crosby's playing. He has to play on the power play, so I'll take that.
Well, that was the first time I had another instance like that, and that was I guess it was my last year in Buffalo. John Muckler came in. He was going to take over for Jerry Meehan as the GM the following season. He fired Rick Dudley about 18 games into the season. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting in the press box. So I'm there, and I played a couple of games here and there when we had injuries. We go to Montreal, and, of course, I got all kinds of relatives in Montreal area because my father's from Gatineau. A lot of them moved to the Montreal area. I had to buy like 15 tickets for that game. Son of a bitch sat me on the bench the entire goddamn game. He called 4 guys up from the minors and played them, and I sat the whole game.
Ugh.
And I wasn't very happy about it. So I asked him when I got back, I said, "Can I have a meeting with you?" And he said, "Yeah, no problem." So I go in and I go, "Why did you embarrass me like that in Montreal? You knew I had 15 people there, relatives." He goes, "Well, I didn't want to, I wasn't trying to embarrass you." I said, "Well, you did a pretty good job, whether you were trying or not." And I said, "Listen," I said, "John, it's pretty obvious you don't want me here." I said, "Why don't you put me on waivers?" He goes, I already did. Nobody wants you. I said, yeah, you put me on recallable. So no one's going to claim me because they know you're going to recall me. He goes, it's the same thing. I go, you know it's not, John. So I went to Jerry and I said, listen, can you talk to John? And if you can't move me by the deadline, send me to Rochester because Tampa and Ottawa were coming in the next year and I wanted to play. So I went down there and, of course, I hadn't played in like 3 months. And it took me about 4 games to get into the flow of things again. I ended up playing 13 games, I think, regular season. And then we ended up going to the semifinals. So it was fun. Hockey was fun for me again when I got down there.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you something more positive about your time with the Sabres. A player that's a really interesting guy is Alexander Mogilny. We don't hear enough about him. What do you got for us on him?
You guys have probably all been asked the same thing. Who is the best player you ever played with or against? That is the guy that I say. Alex.
No shit.
I have never seen a guy go from 0 to full speed in 2 strides like this guy. And he would go down, put the puck underneath the defenseman's stick about 3 times. And the next thing you knew, he was around him. And you go, how did he do that? I mean, the guy was unbelievable. And, you know, he scored, 76 goals one year or something. And then you put him and LaFontaine together, and that they just were tearing it up.
Yeah, you play with some legends there. I mean, Dave Anderchuk was there. As far as Mogilny, though, I want to say that was his rookie season. Like, how was his English? And like, did you ask him at all about defecting from Russia and like what that was like, what the feeling was personally for him at the time? Because that was probably some chaos in his life.
Yeah, it was. He actually defected when they were in the World Juniors in Alaska. And how about this? He was on line with Burry and, what's that guy's name? Fedorov.
Oh,
could you imagine them playing together in the back?
No.
I mean,
oh my God.
So he defected from there. I talked to him a little bit. He didn't really want to get into it very much, but his English wasn't all that bad, actually. And, but I think it was his 2nd or 3rd year. Of course, I hate flying, and it's probably a control thing with me because I don't have my hands on the wheel. And so I would always sit beside Alex because he was worse than I was. So that made me feel safe. But anyway, we're coming back from LA. We got to stop in Detroit, and we got a connecting flight to Buffalo. We go to a new gate, and we're all waiting there, and we're ready to board the plane, and everybody's looking around, and someone says, where's Alex? Nobody knew where he was. Well, he left the airport, and he took a bus back to Buffalo. So the rest of the season, the guy who helped out the trainers in Rochester drove him to all the games. He drove him to St. Louis from Buffalo for a game. And Alex would just lay down in the back seat, sleep, and this guy had to drive him everywhere.
Jeez.
Unbelievable.
What a great set of stories you have here, Rick. We appreciate it. It's a hell of a run you had, man. I mean, I guess playing in Buffalo, you saw how rabid those fans can be. 12 years now since they've been in the Cup playoffs. So hopefully that switches around next year for them. You saw how passionate they were.
Oh yeah, and they've got some good young players, and they got a couple more guys still in Rochester that are going to be coming up. Give them 2 years. They're going to be a team to reckon with for sure.
We got to talk about your coaching career. You were down in South Carolina with the Stingrays. I mean, that's one of the best places in the world to play hockey. But I heard a story about your goalie was using illegal pads one game and you got caught with it.
No shit.
Well, that was funny because I was in the finals and we were playing the Louisiana Ice Gators. And God, what's the guy's name? The coach, anyway, he complained to the referees that our goalie's pads were too big. So Andy Van Helleman was in charge of the officials. He comes in the room and he goes, he's complaining to the other guy about your goalie's pads. So he said, just jump on them for a while, he said, and make them a little bit thinner. He said, I don't think they're illegal, but let's just make sure. So they got the trainers jumping on the pads and everything, and then he measures them. And he goes, yep, they're fine. That was it. We beat them 4-1. And the reason we beat them, because they were so undisciplined, they took so many penalties, and our power play was 33% in that series.
Fuck the Oilers. They had a new school Oilers.
Yeah, well, we had a good team. I had a
Robbie
bunch
Kincannon, right?
Yeah, Robbie was there. And, well, he's a president there now.
Yeah.
And
never left.
What a unbelievable, crazy son of a bitch he was. I mean, he would do some really crazy shit.
Yeah, there's some amazing stories about him.
I can't even tell you the stuff that he did because, well, no, I can't. But anyway, he's a great kid. I had a lot of great kids back then. I think the biggest thing for me coaching was when I finished playing, I took a short psychology thing online. Then I bought 5 books on psychology and sports psychology, and I read the hell out of them. So it was my communication skills with my players. You know, I would pick 3 guys every day that I was going to have a conversation with. And I would tell them before practice on the ice, I want to see you in my office after practice. And they'd probably be shitting their pants the whole practice. They'd come in. I'd just say, hey, how's it going? How's the apartments? Are they okay? Is there anything I can do? If they had a wife or a girlfriend, are they okay with it? Is there anything I can help you with? And they'd be sitting there like going, holy cow. And then they'd walk out. So they knew when I went in and gave them shit that, you know, I cared about them. And I just wanted them to be better. And I had great captain and assistants. I only did it twice, but I called them in twice. And I said, guys, tomorrow you're going to pick up the paper and I'm going to be blasting you 3 guys. It has nothing to do with you guys. You're doing your job. I got to wake those other assholes in there up. So I said, if they read what I'm saying about you, they're going to go, holy shit, he could get rid of me tomorrow. Sure enough, that was after we'd lose like 4 or 5 in a row, and then we'd go and win 12 in a row after that. So obviously it woke them up.
They needed a kick in the arse. I actually heard another story too. Is it true that when Brendan Shanahan was 14, he somehow ended up where you were and asked you for an autograph and you snubbed him? And then years later, when you ended up on the ice together, he tried to go after you?
Yeah, first of all, I don't even remember it. He leaked into the press, actually. And we used to skate at Etobicoke Centennial Monday to Friday, the whole month of August, first week of September, going into camp. Apparently, he was on another pad, according to him, and he came in for an autograph, and I wouldn't sign it for him, according to him. And so when he was in New Jersey, where he got drafted, I was in Buffalo. We're lined up at the face-off. They dropped the puck. He jumps me and beats the shit out of me. And, you know, I mean, I go, and I said, like, what the hell was that for?
What the fuck did I do?
I signed an autograph, and I go,
what the fuck?
Like, I'm going, like, that
Shanny.
was 4 years ago. Like, you know, like I didn't remember that. And if I did, you know what? I apologized to him. I said, if I did that, I apologize. But I wouldn't do that to a teenager back then. It's just not something that was in my DNA, so to speak. The only thing I could think of is that I was already halfway in my car or something and I had to be someplace. I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
but
he was being a seeker. Shanny was being a loser seeker. He's probably trying to sell it and make a couple bucks. Don't worry about it. Hey, my only thing I'm worried about for you, though, is they might take away the seafood tower in the alumni box because he's the president of the team there in Toronto. So
No, because he pumped his eyes shut. If Vaive had turned around and dummied him, he wouldn't even be going to the game.
No, I wouldn't be. You're right. But he invited me down to meet Austin that time and then to the dressing room. And then when Guy Lafleur passed away, he invited me to go on a private jet with him and Wendell and Dougie to Montreal to pay our respects. And, you know, he's been good to me. I mean, aside from not retiring my sweater, perhaps, but, you know, what are you going to do?
Hey, did you ever end up giving him an autograph and handing it to him? Say, hey, I got you. I know I'm a little late here, but here you go, pal.
Yeah, you know what? I thought about that, but I thought, that probably isn't the best thing for me to do. No. When the guy's the president of the hockey club, and I just didn't think that was a smart thing to do. I did think about it though, Biz.
Hey, I was surprised he didn't put out the receipt for the private plane and ask you to sign that as the autograph.
But you know what? He's been good to me. I can't complain. Yeah. And I get a lot of things through MLSC. Got a big thing on Saturday that pays well. I do a lot with them. I'm not under contract, but I do a lot of things. I still love doing it, and still love going to the games, watching them play. And I think this year, I've heard you say it, Biz, and I agree 100%. This could be a real special year for this team.
Yeah, if Biz is saying it, there's a real good chance it's going to happen. So you're right on that one.
Tampa sweep.
Been on fire since this podcast began.
I said Boston was going to miss the playoffs this year. How's that one for you?
Oh, God. You said that?
Yeah, I reversed mushed them into first place overall ever. Best season.
Go on then.
He wants some second round. That's all he wants is he wants some second round.
Pressure's on them, Rick. Perfect.
You know what? The only thing I look at in that first round, Tampa's basically playing with house money. They've gone to the Stanley Cup Finals 3 years in a row. So if they lose in the first round, it's no big deal, right? And the pressure was on Toronto to win that round. I mean, they haven't done it since 2004. And there's going to be a lot of pressure on those players. But I think they have enough depth, and they've made their back end better. Samsonov's been outstanding lately, so I don't see how Tampa can beat them in the first round.
I love it. I love the positivity, Rick.
Yep.
Well, Rick, I hope you enjoyed coming on, telling some old stories, because I know us three really did enjoy getting to hear some of that old time hockey stuff. So thank you so much.
Well, it was old time hockey, that's for sure, and I love playing it. And it was a little more difficult back then than it is now.
You think?
These guys going down and cutting in the slot and going right down the middle, and I'm thinking, holy shit! If I had done that, Scott Stevens would have been coming over to take my head off.
Exactly.
But you know what? The skill level of these players today is off the charts. It's unbelievable. It's fun to watch. And the game is growing, is great. And you know what? Gary Bettman gets a lot of shit from people, but hey, he's made the players and the owners a hell of a lot of money in the last 30 years. So you can't say anything bad about the guy.
I tell you what these young guys can't do is tell stories like you old guys. You guys are the best.
That's right, because they don't even go out anymore.
Yeah.
No. Thanks so much.
Rick. That interview was brought to you by Chevy. You guys know I've talked about it. We've been a part of the Chevy EV family, and we got big news. The first ever all-electric Silverado is officially Barstool's most valuable truck. This beast is ripping around the streets. It's an absolute monster to be driving around in. And when we got the chance to actually step in and see these and experience it, it was a game changer. It's available 400-mile range, GM estimated on a full charge. Don't worry about you running out of the charge. Over 10 feet of length in the bed with the multi-flex tailgate combined with the multi-flex midgate. A large, enormous 17-inch diagonal display screen just makes the driving a little bit more enjoyable when you got the screen like that in front of you. It could tow up to 10,000 pounds of max towing, 0 to 60 in under 4.5 seconds with the WOW mode. There's no weakness in the Chevy EV. It's not like because it's electric, it still doesn't get going quick. And there's up to an impressive 785 foot-pounds of torque. So head on over to Chevy.com to learn more. Chevy.com right now to see the EV family.
Big thanks to Rick Vaive for joining us, guys, for the interview. Good job, fellas. I'm sorry I missed that one, but hopefully everybody enjoyed that out there. Biz, some news out in your neck of the woods.
We have to talk about this?
It's hockey news, and that's what we do here. The Coyotes' latest bid to stay in Arizona shit the bed. Tempe voters said no to the proposal that would have built a new entertainment district and an arena that would have ensured the Desert Dogs stayed out there for who knows how many more years. The turnout by voters 65 and older was 63%, and they made up 43% of all voters. So basically, the old folks were like, fuck this. We don't want our taxes going to this. I think the franchise sealed its fate with the Glendale shit a long time ago, but there was very little public support. There was a political action committee for the Yotes. They spent $200,000 while the opposition spent $2 million on it. So it was like 10 times more on it. And it's all fucking PR stuff. The thing is, what does Gary call it a day with Arizona or what? I mean, what's the next option here? I know the owners are saying they're going to pursue other things, but there's no fucking plan B here. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah, it seems as though the time has finally come. And Keith, credit to Keith Yandel. He said on Game Notes Friday, without the Coyotes, right, there's not an Austin Matthews in the league. So it does suck. And we've been harder than Coyotes. There aren't a ton of loyal, like diehard Coyotes fans. Maybe I'm wrong on that, Biz. I think you'd disagree. But overall, it's been a shit show there for quite some time. Now, maybe if somehow the Suns owner, like those are the rumblings, maybe the Suns owner could get involved and they could play there. But my favorite part of all of this is them losing the vote and somebody going all rogue on the Twitter account saying, if you give us enough likes, we'll release our new arena plan. Like, dude, the arena plan just got axed about an hour ago. Like, I don't know what. Whoever took over the Twitter was on the crack.
I run the Twitter. You shut the fuck up. I run the Twitter.
I mean, it's funny, but it's like the other team that just
it
lost.
Looks like a joke. It looks like
exactly
a joke.
like. I mean, I got it right here. Like they're like, oh, who wants to see our next plan? Like, click here, and they literally fucking rickrolled people. Fucking Rick Astley. That's a 30-year-old fucking internet meme. And it's like, you're an NHL team and you're fucking doing this to your fans. It was like, I mean, it was a clown show that got even worse, man. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck they're doing, but
not to mention the fact that while being a cool atmosphere for fans this year, I mean, they're playing in a 4,000 seat arena, like it's the NHL. They ended up being a really good home team, and the vibe apparently was great. It's an NHL hockey game played in front of 4,700 people. Like, well, what are we doing?
You think Clayton Keller's dad was into the wine when he sent out those tweets, or
what? There's that, and then there's Logan Cooley, who said he's going back to college as well. My boy, Logan Cooley.
Yep, the first round pick at 22.
Keller's dad was sending out tweets.
Yeah,
he said he got hacked.
He said he got hacked.
Yep.
Kind of like when I got hacked when I posted all the photos of the girl
hog.
doing woof of happy birthday lines
of the band guy and Dallas's girlfriends. I mean, his father. Well, the tweets appeared on his father's account about like Clayton's not going to go back to Phoenix next year. Blah blah blah. He came out and said he was hacked. Whether he was or wasn't, I mean, it wouldn't serve Clayton to not go back. I mean, you're under contract. You're not going to get paid. I don't know what he would do that for. Anyways, I don't think that was really true. But either way, it's just an absolute clusterfuck. His agents did meet with the Coyotes brass to discuss the future on and off the ice, and they are going to play at Mullet next year. That was already planned. But for the next year after that, no clue. Nobody knows where they're going to play.
Well,
this is a fucking NHL team, and they don't have a fucking bond next year.
All right, from my understanding, they got about 6 months to try to get something else done. Currently, they're looking at Mesa. It's probably about 15 minutes from the site where they were trying to get approved in Tempe. I was a little discouraged when I heard that the opposition spent $2 million to try to get it rejected, where they only spent $200. It seemed like maybe they underestimated the amount of people that didn't want that to happen. Although, in the same breath, it's like allowing all these older people to decide like what the future should behold. It's kind of like But once again, like if I'm coming from a biased opinion, it's like, all right, well, you know, I'm just very overall disappointed because, you know, I call Scottsdale home, and that area and that organization was the place where I got to play 5 years, and the people are incredible. The people who worked for the team are incredible. And I just can't picture hockey not being in the desert, because with 5 million people being in that, you know, hour radius in that area, I just can't see a reason why it can't succeed. And RA, going back to your point, yeah, I think the story was written when they went to Glendale originally. They originally broke ground, you know, in the Scottsdale area, or planned on it, and then last minute they came in and said, "Hey, we're going to give you the land for free in Glendale." And and to defend the decision, at the time in which they made the decision, the Glendale was like technically the fastest growing city in America. based on what was popping up there, but maybe not the demographic who can afford season tickets and afford to go to sporting events. So to contradict myself, so that was why they decided it, along with the fact they were getting free land. And it's just been a shit show. And now they find themselves in this situation where some roads seem like they're leading to Utah, where the owner for the NBA team there is very excited about potentially bringing in a hockey team. And from my understanding is if that happened, they would then build a new arena for the basketball team and hockey team. Also rumblings of Atlanta, Houston, and then KC. I don't think Quebec City is a possibility.
No.
But if they don't get this thing done in 6 months and try to shift to a new idea of an arena in Mesa, I think that the Coyotes are going to be moving to a new destination. And that really sucks for me. But I understand the decision and the fact that they couldn't figure things out. Another thing too about the arena situation, most of it was going to be self-funded. So I don't, that is a little bit frustrating too, where it's like, as far as taxpayer dollars, like how many, and fuck, we're talking about a huge entertainment district and revitalizing an area that has a lot of empty dirt. So sucks, but whatever. I'll still call that area home, and you got to move on.
Hey, Whit, I was just thinking, if they leave, it might not be so bad for Biz as he thinks. He'd be like, Biz's hockey and hiking camp.
Shut the fuck up with the hiking, you fucking asshole. I just lost my NHL team.
Like, let's go for a hike and then shoot some twisted wristers, boys.
Hiking fantasy camp, and like nobody signs up. They're like, I'm all set.
Biz, I do feel bad for the fans because there are a lot of fans there. And
I didn't even mention
right
the
now.
fans. That's what I was. That's the last thing I should.
We have
forgot
4 Sun Belt teams in the finals right now. Well, the semifinals: Vegas, Dallas, Raleigh, and Fort Lauderdale. Like, hockey works in the South, the hot markets. That's bullshit that it doesn't work there. But when you put an arena fucking 45 minutes away and it becomes a clusterfuck, then you can't establish what you need to do. And I mean, obviously, it worked there early on when they played at the old arena where the Suns were. When the first couple of years when they were Phoenix Coyotes with Big Walt and Roenick and all those guys, but they just couldn't get it right since then. And it's like, all right, man, if you're gonna fuck this up too much, then we got to go somewhere else. And I think Houston, I know I've said it before, seems like the most viable option. The biggest city without a team. They have an arena that can fit everybody. They don't have to build anything new, and it's a natural rivalry with Dallas. But I do have a lot of sympathy for the fans who've been sticking by this team for 25 years.
Employees,
I feel bad for
all of them.
It sucks. They've done nothing wrong. They've done nothing wrong. So
I will say this as a visiting guy that like went to play there. When you went out there, like I didn't think like anything. Well, it sucked that there's no fans most of the time, but it was cool going out there. Like we stayed. Sometimes we stayed like a nice golf resort if we were there for longer, or we stayed at a hotel right next to the rink. But like you're in this, like there's like fountains and music outside and shit. Like I was like, this is kind of cool. Like
paradise.
Yeah, I was like, this is like in the middle of nowhere. I didn't even know I was in the middle of nowhere. This is awesome.
Just a tough look for the league.
We're on a respirator right now. We need help. Maybe we start a GoFundMe. Every Chiclets fan just throw in what, 10 grand?
Yeah,
I think we can make a stab at it.
Yeah, hold on, let me get my checkbook. Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont said Friday he's planning to meet with Bettman about the possibility of moving the Coyotes to Hartford. It's like, buddy, shit in your hand and wish for $100. He would get Phil's up first, buddy. There's no way that fucking Hartford is getting a hockey team. They don't have a rink. That's just like a pipe dream. That's never going to happen. Hartford's never getting a team, right, Army? I mean, for real? It's like, no. Get the fuck out of here.
Well, Bettman's helping him do that. He's helping Shanny pick a new GM. And I mean, he's got lots going on.
Chicago, all the other shit
He's got lots going on.
Whit, if you had to guess a team, I'm going to guess Houston, I guess the city rather. Where do you think they end up if they do, in fact, move after the season?
Yeah, Houston would probably be mine too. I got to piggyback on you there.
Makes me too.
Oh my God.
Well, boys,
me too. I'm with you too.
The podcast.
Huh?
I said tough way to end the podcast.
No, we wanted to
I know, Biz, like in 20 years, you're gonna be like, I played for the Phoenix Coyotes, and people are going to be like, who?
Yeah, okay.
He's going to say Arizona Coyotes, and they're going to be like, oh, yeah.
I remember them. Oh, you were the radio guy that was all fucked up that night, right? Yeah.
Took my girlfriend home.
You sprained your quad on that hike. I remember meeting you.
Gary Bettman is going to meet with Joe Quenneville after the playoffs to review his coaching status. This is per Darren Dreger. And Stan Bowman is on the same boat. He's been talking to a bunch of teams to get employed again, but they have to get approved by Gary Bettman to rejoin the league. I don't know what the parameters are for it, whatever. I don't know what the proper penance is, but either way, they got to have a sit down with Gary. I don't know if they got to kiss the ring, whatever, but Joe Quenneville trying to get back in the game and Stan Bowman as well. I don't know. See what happens there. I mean, this is untreaded territory.
What would you say the odds of that is?
Of him getting a job again?
Of them getting reinstated to come back at this point right now?
I think much more likely than not,
Really? I thought they would be kind of on the lower end.
I mean, the more time goes by, it's just years will go by and at some point they'll give him the chance to work in the league again. I mean, Quenneville will have a job immediately. So it's basically up to Bettman, I guess, in terms of all right, we'll make him wait another couple of years or he's done his time.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's new territory. This type of thing that never happened before. Where guys got to, what is it? You got to say the right thing. You got to do something. I don't know what Gary Bettman's thinking, but we'll keep tabs on it. And one last story here: Joe Veleno of the Detroit Red Wings organization.
Ooh, this was a brutal.
What the hell was he doing?
He was trying to chop a guy's leg off.
Yeah,
legit.
ugly, dangerous. Where was the Worlds this year, Rami?
Riga, Latvia.
Riga, Latvia. Okay.
Helsinki.
Biggest smoke shows on the planet. Riga, Latvia.
Rockets everywhere.
I played an exhibition game there. I almost fucking broke my neck.
Yeah.
Staring up in the crowd nonstop. I was wearing a neck brace for weeks.
Oh shit!
Cranked the cock off my torso.
With all the visual
you were on a Z-pack and a neck brace for 2 weeks after the trip.
He was battling Nino Niederreiter behind the net, and he just looked like he just stomped on his fucking ankle / Achilles. I mean, he could have easily gashed him, but fortunately nothing happened. And ironically, they called a penalty on Niederreiter. IIHF suspended him for 5 games, which basically ends the tournament for him. But just the ugly, man. What are you thinking? Why? That's just a horrific fucking thing to do in the sport, biz. Right?
That's the
wires crossed, but that's fucking crazy.
Late in your shift, no oxygen going to your brain. For whatever reason, he was frustrated at the fact that Niederreiter was protecting the puck and it was staying stagnant on the wall. No whistle. And yeah, I mean, I'm imagining a very regrettable decision for him. I'm sure he feels like a fucking idiot, especially with the amount of backlash going online. You've seen a few instances in the past where guys have had those Achilles injuries. I don't think Matt Cook did it on purpose to Carlson. Any Ottawa fans are probably losing their mind right now at me saying that, but this one was legitimate, deliberate. He just lifted his leg up. You don't
think he tried to get his foot in front to go along, to get kind of
You're talking the Cook situation?
No, I'm talking the Veleno.
It looked like he knew.
It looked like he meant to. I'm just saying, do you think he was trying to do something else and that happened? I would love to know what he said.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, maybe like to know it just didn't look good. It looked horrible.
Looked horrible.
He went right down on it, and thankfully he ended up getting the pad, area of the padding that has the plastic in front of it.
Yeah,
and not in behind. And at least he didn't come out with a major injury. But I think the rest of the tournament is a fair punishment, a learning experience. And hey, they'll face off against each other more than likely in the NHL. And that's why I love fighting in the NHL, where Niederreiter is going to take matters into his own hands, I imagine.
Yeah, I guess a little poetic justice that the Swiss won that game over Canada as well. I thought that was poetic justice, considering the guy tried to.
Well, he got 5 games, right? They suspended him 5 games, and I even seen Evander Kane, who got his arm gashed open, skated over. He said on there too, after my incident and kind of some of the attention drawn to how serious these can be and how much time he missed and how serious and scary that was. What the fuck are you thinking? Trying to do something like this? So. I don't know. I try to think about. I'm trying to think about. I'm like, did he really Because when you see it, it looks like he karate kicks him in the leg like that.
Yeah,
but
it's
I don't know if he was
motion that a hockey player would do in that situation.
That's crazy.
So yeah, that wraps up all the hockey news, boys. PGA Championship. I know what Koepka won it. I know we're not going to get into too much, but we didn't have any dough on that. Air the movie. I know a few guys watch it. We could talk about it next week, but.
Great
movie. Gretzky's been raving about this. I said, you and RA just back and forth. Love this show.
Yeah, I loved it too.
Yeah, I wrote a little piece on it over the weekend too. I was very happy with the thing. Also, Succession. Only 2 episodes left. But you're a Succession guy, right?
I'm gonna watch. There's 2 episodes left, so episode 9 is tonight. It's already happened. But I'm going to watch that show, after. Episode 8, all right, with the election.
I haven't watched any of this, boys. I haven't gotten into the show.
Anything away.
No, we won't spoil.
Episode 8 involves the presidential election. That's not giving anything away. That's been leading up to that. One of the best episodes of TV I've ever seen in my life. Like, I love the show to begin with, but it was just awesome viewing. And I'm pissed off that show's going away. It's a great show.
I mean, I'd rather shows go out on top with a little left in the tank instead of like fucking milking it for 3 more years. But that Tom Robbins games, he's actually English. The Matthew McFadden there, the scenes with him and Shiv, like holy fuck, dude.
Yeah,
like they were going at it, unreal stuff. And also Barry, that's winding down too. The Bill Hader show of SNL. If you haven't watched that, tremendous fucking show. It's sort of like a Breaking Bad as far as like going dark to light comedy and horrific stuff all the time. Fantastic show, but boys, any final notes, thoughts, whatever, before we close up shop for the night?
No, Game Notes Daily all week, starting today as you're listening at noon on Chiclets YouTube, Chiclets Twitter. I'll be definitely on that show, one if not more days this week. We have Bang the Glass Guy now joining the show, and we'll be back to you soon enough.
I would like to say my heart's going out to all Coyotes fans out there. I appreciate you mentioning that, RA, because I would have felt like an idiot not mentioning it. Everybody works for the organization. To Judd, Austin Matthews' agent, please, for the love of God, maybe sprinkle in a little bit of a hometown discount. Let's get the job done here. And to the GM search, I hope it's Brad Treliving, because we'll have him at the live show in Toronto at the All-Star game next year, which seems to be something that we all agree on we're doing. G,
oh, yeah.
Is that too much of a sprinkle of a tease or what?
We're doing that.
We're doing it, baby. We're doing it.
Yeah. And make sure to check out.
I might get a tomato chucked at my head.
Make sure you should. We should fucking initiate you on stage. Check out the Charles Barkley interview. Make sure you check out the Sandbagger. Thank you to Portnoy and Josh Richards for being a part of that. Wayne McBean, Coyotes alumni. He's the one who set us up at his course. And as miserable as it was, we're very grateful that you could squeeze us in during Super Bowl week. And we know that was a difficult move, so we appreciate you. And what's the name of the course again? Las Ciendas? Help me out, G.
I do not know off the top of my head.
All right, we'll end it on that note. Go check it out on YouTube. You'll see the name of the course.
Peace.